Hi. Hey, sorry. I was a little busy for a second. Make coffee, get the coffee going. The light's a little harsh. Let's fix that, guys. Hold on a second here. Turn that light down a little bit. That's going to look a little better. Balance it out a bit. Open this up. Get squared away. Well, happy daylight savings time. Started a little late today. Daylight savings put me back a little bit, just like everybody, I'm sure. Lauren's in the house. My knees hurt is in the house. Anthony Murphy's from Toronto, and he's in the house. Scott's up in the Olympic Peninsula. He says hello. It's a nice part of the world. Let's see. Lauren is not well, but he doesn't have coronavirus. That's good. Stay safe, folks out there. Don't get the coronavirus. I was out last night for a while, and I was like, is this smart? Like, I should probably, I was around, a place where there was a lot of people around and stuff. I was like, I should probably go home. Just go home for one Saturday night. No reason to, Everybody see, did I show you this last week? This little Timmy? This is great little pedal. I really like it. New sort of fave overdrive of mine. I confess, I'd never tried the original Timmy, like a real, one or whatever. Not this isn't a real one, but I've never, you know what I mean? Like the early one, the full size one. I'd never even played one. But this is great. So I assume it probably sounds pretty close to the same, and it's really nice. Highly recommended. What else happened this week? I did a demo of the. If you guys haven't seen them, I put up a couple videos this week. Please go watch them. Share them. They're not getting tons of views for whatever reason. It's hard. Phaser demos, tough. Tough to get people to watch phaser demos, I find. Looper, a little bit more action on the Infinity Looper. But overdrives, everybody wants to watch overdrive and distortion pedal videos, I guess. Delay is a little, it's weird. I've got this all figured out now. Delays right behind overdrives and distortions. Phasers, tough. Tremolos, really tough. I got to make a tremolo video coming up here. Tough to get anybody interested in a tremolo video. That's what I found. Compressor is kind of tough too. It's a hard. The other thing I realized is loopers are actually hard to show in a demo video because a lot of the functions on a looper pedal, you're doing things like long button pushes and short button pushes or double taps or things. That's hard to like. How do you show that stuff in a video? That basically you just have to make a cool loop and then hope that people are like, oh, that's cool. That looks fun. The phaser demo was great, says Anthony. Thanks. It's a really nice phaser. It's does a lot of different things. The one sound I found, it didn't sound exactly like original to me was the Phase 90, but it still sounds great. It's just different. It's got its own thing going on. But it's a really nice phaser. Tips for using Thornbucker as a bridge pickup on an HHS setup. What kind of single coils match well? I use mostly V60 LPs in most of my guitars that have. I've got the ML standards, but they call them V60s or something now. Excuse me. And those sound good too. That's what is in that red classic that I got recently. This guitar. God, this guitar stand I have down there is like the foam on it is drying out and it's sticky now. It comes off on the guitars. It doesn't permanently mar them, but I can hear it every time I pick the guitar up. It's like pull the guitar off. But anyway, look at this thing. God, it's sexy, isn't it? Anyway, this guitar's got the MLs, but they're V60s, I think they call them now. And a Thornbucker in the bridge, and this works great with that setup. But I like V60 LPs too. Ooh, this feels good. I haven't picked it up for a few days. Damn. This guitar is the main thing that I used out on the road doing the classic rock show. I played this on probably 60% of the set or something like that, at least. Just became kind of the neck is that the Jackson sort of Charvel thing, and it's I found that I didn't really, because it is kind of a thing. It's quite thin, actually, and I didn't really want to switch away from it once I started playing it because it was a little weird to switch to a thicker neck. I found like on another guitar or something. So, but it does do that thing. If you like Charvel necks, it's a monster. The other thing you can do that I always do is this series parallel in the tone pot. So when I pull this, the Thornbuck on the bridge goes to parallel, and then it balances level-wise almost perfectly with the singles. So if you feel like, you want to get a perfect balance going for a song or two, like because the humbucker is always going to be a little louder than singles. It just is. When I think about like Jakey Lee, he had like a Jeff Beck in the bridge of his guitar, but he had SDS1 DiMarzio single coils. I think it was a Jeff Beck, wasn't it? I don't know, but it was a hotter pickup. And then he had the SDS1 single coils. And the reason was to balance. And it actually works because I've actually played his guitar here. But also like the reissue, that Charvel makes or whatever. And so when you play it, it's like, damn, that does balance like really well. He was a pretty smart guy with the way that he also does an interesting thing on his personal guitar where from the 12th fret up, it's 6105 frets. And then all the way down, it's 6100s. But it's a Gibson scale, his guitar. It's a short scale guitar that, I'm talking about the white one that he plays, his kind of signature model. So smaller frets all the way up and then slightly wider frets down low, because especially on a 24 3/4 scale, it's a little bit skinnier up here. So I guess, it's interesting. He's a thoughtful guy when it comes to the way he set up his Super Strat. Leon is up in the top chat thingamajig or whatever it's called up top, and he's in the UK, and he says, I'm getting a classic T tomorrow. Awesome. Any tips on transitioning from a Strat to a Tele? My main amp is a Badger 35. Not really. I think you'll really enjoy it. I mean, it's actually kind of in many ways, it's like sort of I find when I pick up a Tele and I'm playing it after a 3 single coil kind of Strat guitar, the Tele sounds generally a little beefier. Like it's easier to get a good bridge pickup sound. If it's a little bright, you just roll the tone control down. Don't be afraid to use the tone control on it if you want to. Back it down to, it's a common thing, on a Tele but generally speaking, I find the bridge pickup on a Tele sounds just great. They're a little fatter sounding than Strat bridge pickups with their design and stuff like that. So they've just got a great kind of, I don't know, there's something about them. They're like a P bass. They're like the Chevy truck of guitars or something. Like it's just kind of a workhorse that just does what you want it to do or whatever. And they're not as, it's a plank, and so they're kind of fun that way, I find, because there's no trem generally, and right, unless it's got a Bigsby or some kind of super Tele guitar, it's got something different going on. But anyways, what's my point? It's just kind of like is what it is when you play a Tele. You're like, oh, and it's kind of great. And it's like, this is lovely. It's kind of like playing a P bass, where it's just, all right, this has 1 pickup and 2 knobs, and you play it, and then a lot of bass players have played their whole career on a bass like that. My friend John Button, he's got the 65P, and he's basically, as long as I've known him, since 1998, he's played with Sheryl Crow, and now he's playing with The Who, and played with 4 million different people. That damn bass, that same bass that he's had forever, and it's just funny. Wayne, the bass player that did the Classic Rock show with me, same thing. It's a 78P. And, he's had it all modified, and then he's put it back to stock. It had a Kaler on it at one point because he was really into Billy Sheehan, stuff like that. And the top frets, like Billy's, are scalloped up here. But it's a 78P, and he's like, yeah, I don't know. I guess I could get another bass at some point. But, he's played it since the 90s. So it's kind of cool. And anyway, I digress. But that's kind of how I think of Teles. Like, they just are what they are. So basic guitar. Okay. What else we got going here? Folks in the UK, folks in Fort Worth, Texas. Ben Coombs slept right through the time change. What's up, Ben? Thanks for being here. I assume you've got a show tonight. Everybody go check out Ben's live stream this evening. He'll let you know in the chat what time it is. Good morning from Australia, says N. Dawson. You're up early, right? Like real early. What, 6? Wow. Is that 4 in the morning there or something? Or 5 in the morning, isn't it? Must be really early. And Arlington, Texas. This is so awesome. Great to have all you guys here. Steve Kelly is up in the top chat there. He says, I never thought I'd ever be into a signature guitar, but recalled I have 3 Les Pauls. I know, it's funny. Les Paul like has that iconic kind of like we don't think of it as a signature guitar, even though it is the original signature guitar. So it took on a life all its own, you know. It's pretty amazing. I mean, it's like there's Les Paul the guy and Les Paul the guitar. The thing about the Les Pauls is funny because I feel like he had such a big part, obviously, in the evolution of the electric guitar and recorded music and everything, with inventing multi-tracking. Really, he's an unbelievable guy. But the Les Paul in particular, I think it's funny because I don't really think that I think it was largely designed by, you know, like probably whoever the guys at Gibson were and Ted McCarty and stuff that were like influenced by his original log guitar. And when call that guy that we talked to 10 years ago that had the log guitar, and you know, he's famous now. Maybe he'll endorse our new guitar that they were trying to kind of play catch up to Leo, who had introduced the Broadcaster in 1948 and was selling well. And so I don't feel like I think they kind of brought him the 52 Les Paul and said, would you be interested in endorsing this and put your name on it? And I don't know how much beyond that he really had to do with, as the story goes, I don't think he really had that much to do with the design of the guitar. But, you know, obviously then it's kind of funny when you see later on, like the Les Paul recording, that was the one that he ended up playing, right? Like late 60s or early 70s or whatever. It's like, oh, that if he had his way, that would be the guitar that, you know, with low impedance pickups and had that kind of weird slanted low impedance pickups in it and stuff. You're like, okay, if he could design it, that's actually what it would have ended up being like, right? It's kind of funny, but anyways, I so digress. I got a PT standard on Friday and I'm loving it, says Steve Kelly. That's awesome, man. Thanks, man. I love it too. I mean, still love the signature guitar. Thank you so much for getting it. What color did you get? I wonder. Thinking about the next evolution of that guitar. So shouldn't really talk about it, but thinking about what comes next and stuff, because it's been out for a few years now, and where do we go with it? You know, obviously I love the guitar as is, but we can do more. We can do some other things. So so I guess since I'm holding this thing, I had thought about this guitar being something that people might be interested in, and this neck. But the way that I kind of am feeling about it, to be honest, after getting it, it's an awesome guitar and I love it. But I think, and my fear is with this guitar, a lot of people would find the neck thin. A lot of you guys out there that, you know, because it's that Charvel thing and stuff, but it's great. I mean, it's awesome. But it is thin. And I find even me, I have to, you know, it's a thing. It's like a, you know, it's not as thin as an Ibanez, you know, one of those, you know, RG guitars or something, or even the Vi guitar or something like that. But it's got that Charvel profile to it. And I just don't know for a signature thing for me, if that's like, you know, so anyways, that's where I ended up at. Because I was thinking for a while about like doing a kind of a signature classic or something, much like Ian did, if they would do it with me. That's delicious. Anyways, be interested in your opinions on that. But had my first jam with my PT15 IR last night. It says Puffy G had the best tone of the group. Right on. I know it's good, isn't it? It's bitching. John says, I'm glad. I'm super glad you're digging it. I got a gig. I'm going to use mine got a gig next Saturday, and I've got my Helix HX effects hooked up. And I'm doing all the programming on the computer, you know, on the thingamajig, the HX edit or whatever. And it mates so well with this amp. It's a great little rig, and I'm getting some really cool tones and stuff. I need to do some like octave shifting and a bunch of rotary stuff and all kinds of. It's very easy to use with the PT15. But anyways, And I'm loving the tones. Hey, from Eastern Canada, says Michael. What's up, man? Hello from Glasgow. Thanks for the pick at the end of the gig, says John. You bet. Glad that you're here. I had fun over there. I seem to remember it was, oh yeah, Glasgow was like, I'm trying to remember that. Oh yeah, I remember the venue now. It was a crazy day. I remember like, man, the weather's so crazy there. I remember walking around and it was kind of sunny. It was like, you know, like it rained so much over there and stuff. So it was rainy. And then the day of the gig, it was like, oh, the sun came out. Awesome. I remember walking around outside the venue and going into a shop. And then I looked out the window like 5 minutes later from the shop. And I thought, this shop must have really tinted windows because it looks so damn dark out there. And no, I walked outside and it was like in 5 minutes it had gone completely overcast and then it started torrentially raining and I got caught in the rain on the way back to got my shoes really wet and stuff on the way back to the venue for sound check. Yeah. Anyway, I love Scotland though. It's fun. Hey, that's where my family heritage comes from. So, I finally woke up in time for Sunday Live, says I could put on my glasses and then I could read there. Squint so much, right? We have the technology. We can rebuild him. Howdy from Portland, says Jam Tracks. What's up? Time to wake and bake with Pete. Enjoy, my friend. Kurt LeBlanc says MXR Timmy will need to try it. I guess I'm way back in the chat, maybe, am I? Or no, maybe I'm not. Kind of at the bottom. Next signature guitar, do a transparent amber top. Well, that was the Eddie thing, though. I've got some very cool ideas for colors for guitars, I have to say. I think I've got some things mapped out in my head that will look cool, and some other things. I missed a super chat from Ian Ferguson. Did I? Thanks, Ben. He says, sorry, Ian. Let's get to that now. He ordered a set of the Wilkinson locking saddles for 1990 Strat. Any setup tips? I just actually put a set on this guitar, which is a classic with the 6-screw Goto vintage trim. So there you go. There's the saddles on a 6-screw Goto, and I was kind of the guinea pig for this. I feel like because I haven't, really tried it. John didn't know if it would work, sir. He said, I don't know, the spacing might not work. And I was like, I don't know, man. They look exactly the same as the saddles. So I put them on and it's perfect. So what did I do? I put them on and then I do the radius just by feel, really. So I found one string, like maybe the G or the D, I would say, raise it up until, generally tune the guitar up and get the saddles sort of close, but find one string and then see if you can find the feel. If you don't have, gauges to look at the height of the strings, just find one string that kind of matches the feel that you like of, say, the D or the G, where it's like, yeah, that generally seems when all the strings are up to tension, and then sort of do a radius just by guessing of the other ones, and then dial it in by hand. That's all I do. I don't have I don't measure them and stuff. It feels great. I set it up. I mean, I've done it enough times, I guess, where, but so, and then what you want to do is, no, and you don't lock the strings down yet. Do all the adjustments of the bridge before locking. So in other words, tune the thing up, try and get the radius in kind of ballpark, set up all the saddles in the zone, and then do intonation after you get the action right and stuff. So obviously set the tremolo springs too, but your bridge is probably, you don't have to change that if it's, and so once you get the radius, then do the intonation, set the intonation, stretch the strings out really good and stuff, make sure everything feels good, then lock the strings down. And that's really how I would do it. That's all I would do. I had to cut the spring. It's funny, sometimes when I come here every week, I'm going to be like, I'm not going to have anything to talk about this week. Like, is anybody, have I talked myself out? Is everything, but there is things, I guess, that there's always topics about guitar, isn't there? But anyway, I had to cut the spring on this saddle because it goes back farthest, the low E. So you might find that you can't screw, they come with the screws and the black springs to tension the saddles. So maybe on the E and the A, Possibly you might have to clip the spring in half with just a set of wire cutters or something, because you don't need all that spring when the saddle's all the way back. It won't go back far enough. You know what I mean? If you try and tension it all the way back and stuff, and there'll be too much spring. So the little, I'm talking about that little spring that goes around the Phillips screw. So just be aware of that, and that's about it, really. And even this guitar, even with vintage tuners, stays in tune quite a bit better than it did before. Because I always had problems with this one, with the 6-screw bridge and the traditional saddles and stuff. This guitar wouldn't stay in tune nearly as well, actually, as even my vintage Strat, my real Fender old vintage guitar. This guitar, it just, I don't know. It was a difficult guitar to keep in tune, to the point where I actually locked the bridge down. Just when I'm not going to use the trem on this one, because I just can't keep it in tune. So it was the prime candidate. I had the set of the saddles. I thought I'll just put these on and see how it goes. And now it stays in tune much, much better. Still goes a little sharp when I use the bar. I can hear the nut on this. I got to get the nut slots widened a little bit, because I can hear them plinking just a little bit when I use it. And I may just get some, I guess Godot makes a set of tuners that are locking, but vintage style like this, like the, what do they call these, Clousson or whatever. So I'm going to get a set of those. I think I'm going to go online and order some and just put those on this guitar and get the nut address. And then it should stay in tune, I think, just about as well as anything I've got. They really are great. And you know what? I was talking about this with Sir the other day. After I put them on, he said, "How's it sound?" And I said, "I think it sounds even better with those saddles than the bent metal traditional saddles on it." Because this is the first time I'd actually put the saddles on a bridge that, you know, an existing bridge. And I thought, this guy, the guitar sounds good, like when I tuned it up and stuff. And he mentioned that he had a guy that had a PT with, you know, the 510, and then he changed the bridge. And he said, "You didn't tell me it was going to sound better when I put this bridge on." So I think the bridge is like, the saddles, whatever they're made out of, so the tone's really great, which is nice. And they're not just functionally, you know, obviously it's a great bonus if the guitar sounds as good or better than with the what do they call them, the block saddles, you know, that would go on a 510. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. It sounds good, which is nice. So Ian, good luck with that. Let me know how it goes. You might want to put if you have tuning instability once you get the saddles on there, have somebody look at the nut. Make sure the nut is a good slippery. You know, use some Big Ben's nut sauce possibly, but also have them look at the saddles, because I find it's funny. It's like the Eddie Van Halen thing. He really had it figured out in '78. He used, you know, that brass nut, which isn't maybe the best material, but he had the slots in the saddles were really wide. He made sure that they were really wide, and he used 3-in-1 oil in all the and, you know, I just think that many times the nut, you know, especially if you go to a bigger gauge ever, you need the slots to be a little bit bigger. I don't think the slots have to be that tight. Just, you know what I'm saying, like maybe just have a tech look at it if it seems like it's not staying in tune. Make sure then, and of course on an American Standard, I don't think it's got locking tuner stocks. You might want to get a good set of tuners that lock for that guitar, and then it should stay in tune as good as anything. You know, beyond that, like probably as good as my guitars do. The my signature model, the SD Design fella is up there in the super chat. Favorite acoustic guitar songs. He likes Seasons, Sun Shower, Ramble On. I've played all those live. I played Ramble On live on the tour we just did on acoustic, actually. Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You. Beck's Bolero. Greensleeves, Landslide. Those are some great ones. Clap by Steve Howe. I always loved. I could kind of play it at one point. Couldn't play it to save my life right now, but that's a really fun one to try and get down too. I love that song. That was the first thing that came to mind. Pinball Wizard. I don't know. Acoustic guitar songs. Blackbird. Trying to think of all the must knows, the classics. I love playing, and another one I can't play to save my life, but I did a lesson on acoustic for Paranoid Android. that's on YouTube that you may have seen or not. And that was so cool. I was like, this is one of the coolest things I've ever learned. Like, it's such an amazingly musical part, but so unconventional at the same time. And it was hard to get down. It was one of those songs that Chris Cornell actually wanted to learn how to play it, and he asked me if I could teach it to him, and I'd never learned it. And I said, sure. And then we never were able to get together and, you know, just sit down and do stuff. And I said, I'm going to make you a video, and that'll be better anyway, because then you can watch it anytime you want. And that was what that video was I did a few lessons for him that were like, where he would ask me, show me the finger picking pattern of this song or whatever. And I would sit down and learn it. And one of the ones he wanted to learn, you know, I thought that was kind of neat. Chris Cornell wanted to learn how to play Paranoid Android by Radiohead. He was, you know, the core dude was a huge fan of music and cool stuff, like all different kinds of music. So, but anyway, if you watch that lesson on YouTube, that's where it came from. And then like maybe a year after that, I thought, I've got these. I didn't, you know, there's no reason for me to not put them up on the internet, and then maybe somebody else will want to watch them. And that video has actually got a lot of views, but it's I made sure I did it right. So if you check that part out, it's really unconventional. And when you get it down, man, it's fun to play, but it takes a second to get down. I would have to go back and review the lesson to learn it. It was 2008 when I did it, I think. So we're all getting old, aren't we? What else, guys? Let's see here. As usual, I'm just randomly kind of moving around the chat here and picking things. So if I miss your question, please ask it again. Arthur says he has a question about my board. What do I use that changes multiple analog effects at the same time? It's a pedal board switcher, the Musicom Lab Mark V. Musicom Lab Mark V is what I use. There's lots of them out there. The Boss ES8 or ES5 or RJMs, or, you know, but basically you plug all the pedals into one of those boxes. You make presets on that box, and then they're all plugged into loops on the box, and you just switch the loops in and out with you pick per preset what loop you want to have on, and you know, or loops, multiple loops, and then it switches all your analog effects. Or you can use it kind of on the fly like you would a standard pedal board if you put it in like an instant access mode, you know, that kind of thing. Metalhead Hippies advising everybody to give me the thumbs up. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. It is helpful. Thanks. Holy Motor, the band, says, how big is that room you're in? What's the preferred? Was that your preferred dimension? No. I mean, it's the dimension that worked for the space that I built the room in. It was like, I'm going to make it as big as I possibly can in the space that I've got. Because basically, in this space, I built that wall, the one that the door's on, and I built the roof into an existing space that is cinder block on the other two walls. So these two walls are cinder block, and then these are drywall. Oh, I built that wall too, the back wall behind where you guys can't see. And I just made it as big as I possibly could. And it's got absolutely nothing to do with acoustics and stuff like that. So, you know, though, it sounds really good in here, and I don't have any problems with the sound. I can mix, and it seems fine. I don't know. I mean, the low end's a little weird, but it's not bad. And I find with my panels that I've got in here, you guys see a few of them back there, and then the ones that are behind the computer, and then on the walls beside those wood panel, you know, that they sort of just tune whatever room I'm in decent enough that I make it work. It's down and dirty. Guerrilla style studio. How big is it? I don't really know. I measured it at one point. It's an odd dimension. Like, I think it's like 10, 12. I can't even remember. I'm going to be completely I measured it at one point, and it was like 17 this way, and I think, but it might be 11 feet wide. 11 and a half feet wide by 17 this way or something. I can't remember. I sound like an idiot. What else is new? Rodrigo says, have you ever tried a 24-inch scale length guitar? I think the Brian May guitar is that, the one that I have here. Aren't those 24? It's like a weird scale, short scale. The shorter they get, the more squirrely they get for tuning, I find. Where's the Lake Placid Blue Beauty? That's in here. Where is it actually? Oh, it's up there in the. Okay, we'll grab it. Oops. Let's see. Come here. What's this guy? Like blasted, like a roasted, light bird's eye maple nut. Now I want to put some of those saddles on this bridge. Maybe not, though. This one seems to stay in tune pretty good, actually. And it actually feels really good. This is a 2-post. I guess it's a Goto. Yeah, it's a Goto. 2-post Goto instead of the 6-post, but with vintage saddles. I don't know. Funny thing, guitars are funny. Like, you can have the same bridge, same setup, same everything. Some of them stay in tune better than others. Ewan Dobson, amazing acoustic player, says William. William's recommending we listen to Ewan. I would love to hear him. I haven't heard him. Mickey says the clap. I think it's actually called clap because, you know, there's the negative connotation of the clap. And I think Steve Howe, we're talking about that Steve Howe acoustic song again. I think Steve Howe was always like, it's called clap, not the clap. Which is funny, but he probably always regretted that name. Greensleeves, says Rick K. Likes that for an acoustic song. Mood for a Day, Michael Easter says. What are some of my other favorite acoustic songs? Let me think. Here Comes the Sun. God, that's a great one. It's so fun to play. Here Comes the Sun. You put the capo on 7, right? And then it's a beautiful, you know, just, I don't know. It's fun to play. Pete, is this your living room or do you have a real studio room? Says Jason. This is my studio. This is a space separate from my home. Yeah. And there's other folks as well in this building and stuff. So, but this is a commercial space. Somebody's up there in the top super duper chat. He's in England. It's the Hoppo. What's up, man? Hi, Pete. I know you've done long tours before, but what was your biggest takeaway from this classic rock show, UK? Oh, well, you know, it's kind of funny because it was my first tour that I've done tours with bands that don't have rock stars in them, like the main singer or whatever before, mainly baby bands or bands that, you know, were getting started like on the first record on a label. And so you go out and people don't really know who you are and that kind of thing. This was similar in that regard, I guess, but yet we're playing all this classic music. So it was an interesting combination of both those things. Like, it's weird to play Hotel California for me and then go, because that song always gave me a little bit of post-traumatic stress disorder because Don's there and you got to play it like really, really good, you know, because you just have to, you know. So I had to keep reminding myself that guy's not here. He's not here right now. So if you were to hit a wrong note or something, it's not going to be, you know what I mean? It's like that pressure. And that maybe that was my biggest takeaway. It was like, this is really fun. Like, I'm playing all these great songs, but there's not the pressure of the having, there's something about, you know, because the grass is always greener, right? And there's something about you play with great people and everything like that. But then there's a real, you know, you want to keep the gig. There's a real obligation to live up to the music because it's epic music and that person's there. So there's always an underlining element of, I find of, I don't know if it's stress or I guess it's stress or pressure or to live up to that, you know, the standard of which, you know what I'm saying. And so that's great because it makes you play better and you rise to the occasion and all that stuff. But there is an element of like, it's nice to just play great music and not be stressed at all. Like, and then maybe ironically you play your best because you're not under some sort of self-imposed. And you guys probably know what I'm talking about. I mean, it's just like some things are more stressful than others. So the nice thing about the classic rock show was that didn't really, there wasn't really that vibe at all. I mean, everybody's just there and the audience is there just to have a great time listening to great music. It's really a celebration of the music and that's it. You know, you're there to have fun. And then the crowd is older, generally speaking. And what was amazing, well, on many levels, it's like to see an older crowd enjoying Sabbath or enjoying Deep Purple, or I mean, obviously it's older music, I know, but it's like it's ingrained in my brain that's because that's what I listened to when I started playing. So it's like, I know it's not the current music or music of the day, but you know what I'm saying? I always see the crowds as being younger, kind of rock crowds, dudes with long hair or whatever. And yet now there's older people there, and I mean, folks that look like, wow, kind of reminds me of my grandparents or something, when you see people there, but they're totally rocking and it's awesome. Like, cause they're having a great time. I always remember Brian Ray in the Paul McCartney video, concert video back in the US when he first got the gig. It was around 2003 that video came out. And there was this great comment that Brian had, this awesome observation that you'd look in the crowd and see the people and they'd be playing all these great songs and going from, whatever, like Hello Goodbye into, Hey Jude into whatever, like all this great music. And he's like, you could look at their faces and it's like they got younger for a minute. And I always thought, God, that's beautiful. Like if you can have that happen at a show, you've done your job, man. If you can make people feel, younger and it's apparent on their face and they look like and so that was what I experienced with the Classic Rock Show, actually, maybe more than just about any other, because we do a meet and greet after, which, because, those experiences with somebody like Henley or something, playing, we wouldn't really see fans after or anything. There was no meet and greet or anything. So I never experienced that. Maybe if I talked to more people one-on-one after his shows, I would experience that. But with the Classic Rock Show, we'd go out and meet everybody after, and just, it was like, so like, come by and let's talk about the music or whatever. And people will come by and we'd chat. And that's where I met the Hoppo. You good sir. And anyways, that my takeaway was these folks were so stoked. It looked like, and I was thinking, God, like some of these people, it looks like maybe this is the best time they've had in a long time. Like they'd just be like, that was amazing. We're buying tickets for next year. Actually, we're going to come see you next week. We heard you're playing and like, whatever, we're going to drive 3 hours and come, and these people would be like maybe in their 60s sometimes, One fellow, I mean, I probably talked about him last week, but he was 70. He had his 70th birthday in Birmingham the night we played there. And he was like following us around. And he was at 7 shows, something like that. He's 70, and I just thought that was awesome. I mean, it's great. I love playing for younger crowds too. And I love playing for, younger crowds, people in their 30s, people in their 40s, but it's pretty fun to play. Maybe I didn't think that it was going to be that fun to play for an older crowd. I guess that's what it is. I was surprised that it was so rewarding to, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? It was a beautiful thing, like bringing some good times and rock and roll joy, I guess, to an older crowd. And they were just as stoked as anybody of any age. And it made me feel really good. And yeah, so pretty cool. Songwriting advice from Mr. Gohil. Songwriting advice. That's a super broad subject, but I would say just anything you can do to get out of your own way and make it easy. So I recommend in my clinic many times, the first thing I recommend is when something pops into your head, record it. And you have this amazing device now, this thing, where you can do that, right? And I just realized, I wonder if my voice memo is updated on here. I always use the example. Maybe I can show you this if it's in here. I guess the voice memos transfer over when you change phones, right? So let me see if I can find my example here that I always use. See if it's this one. Nope, that's not it. Okay, so it's well, you're gonna get the idea. I can't remember. Maybe it's this one. April 10th. Let me see what's this one. This could be anything I'm playing here. This could get me in trouble. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm probably searching for some kind of part, but this isn't the one that I wanted to play you. But I'm hearing a melody or whatever, obviously, with this part or something, and I wanted to record it and get it down on my phone. this thing is the you know, greatest thing as far as like I find for documenting ideas. You can see it's so bright that you can't see, but I wish you could see. I don't know how to make it in the contrast, but see all these? It's just ideas that I record in the phone using the phone recorder. And there's hundreds and hundreds of little things. So if I'm doing a demo for a delay pedal coming up or an overdrive and I'm driving in the car and I get an idea in my head, I'll just hit the voice recorder and just quickly like sing a riff into the phone or whatever, so that I capture it. And then I don't constantly, when I sit down, have to go, okay, now it's writing time. It's like, no, I've got a catalog. I can go back and like look at 5 things, you know, and go, oh yeah, that one was cool. And then try and find the notes on the guitar or whatever. So I literally like, the one I was looking for was me singing into the phone. It wasn't me playing on the guitar. It was actually like I was singing. I was like, anybody that's been in my clinic will remember that's what I sang into the phone when I was trying to come up with the song that I do in the PT15 IR clinic. And so I actually show the whole genesis of the song, like from the time I sang the riff into the phone to then, you know, how I built the drums up and bass and then add the guitar parts and stuff like that. So that's my number one little trick, I guess, for the day, is use this thing to record your ideas. And you don't always have to, writing time doesn't always have to be when you sit down with a guitar in your home studio and turn everything on and start. You know, it can be at any time when you're walking down the street or whatever and you get an idea, and you know, could be a bass line, could be anything. What do I think about David Lee Roth's current concerts, says Arvin. I just went to one, so I went and saw my buddy Al playing with him, you know, and so Jason Carter says, what do I have to do to own that Lake Placid? You can order one of these from a Sur dealer in this exact, you know, let's get a Lake Placid Classic with a roasted maple neck in any configuration you like. They can order one. So Roth, you know, I saw him with Kiss last week at the Staples Center, and I quite enjoyed it. He's singing more controlled than some of the early shows I saw, where he's, you know, it's where he gets into trouble, I find, just for this is my opinion or whatever, but you know, it's all that crazy high stuff that he does that isn't in the songs, where he feels like he needs to scream. When he sings in his mid-range or low voice, he sounds really good. Like, it's just like, there it is. That's the part. And I wish he would sing the melodies more, you know. I don't know. I got no skin in the game. I feel like there was somebody like that had that you know, that like maybe somebody needs to talk to him that's got no skin in the game. Be like, can you just sing the songs more? Like, just sing the damn melody. Like, not so much chaos. And you know, I just wish somebody would tell him that. Although it was better than some of the videos that I saw from the early Vegas shows and stuff like that at the Kiss show. Now, the other thing that was apparent to me was it was a 45-minute set. He's opening for Kiss, and it was jam-packed with music. He didn't talk very much at all. Just went song to song to song to song to song. And I'm wondering if that was almost like a Doc McGee thing, where like he was like, hey, we don't want you to, like, you know, can't be all this talking. It's like, come out and play music. I don't know. Like, if there was a discussion. Because obviously it's a pretty great tour for him to be on, I think. I mean, it's Kiss arena crowds. It's probably, you know, anywhere from, you know, 12 to 20,000 people a night or something like that, all over the place. And it's a good tour for him to be on. So, criticisms, the band was too far in the back and not lit enough with him up front. It's like, dude, you know, let Al be same billing as you on stage, and have your bass player up front too, and have the whole front of the stage be guitar, bass, and you, and light those people, you know, don't make them in the back and some sort of, you know, it's better. Like, you don't have to be up there all the time being the ringleader and doing all your crazy shit and stuff. Like, it's great, you know, but it'll be better if you just let it be like the Eat 'em and Smile tour or whatever, you know, let people shine. It'll be better for you, you know, I don't know. Al played amazing. His tone was awesome, I have to say. And I thought he was a huge asset to the whole thing, that it wouldn't be the same without him. It was like, it was really, I mean, he's got that thing where he can play those songs and play those parts, and it sounds like a part of his playing, where it's not like forced, like I'm, you know, he's so natural at playing that stuff. Talking about Al Estrada here, you know, he just sounded great doing it. It looked really comfortable, and he's having the time of his life. He's just like, you know, he put up a post on Instagram, said, if you would have told me I'd be playing Staples Center with Dave Lee Roth 6 months ago, I would have said you were crazy, you know. And it's a nice picture of him with the whole arena behind him at sound check and stuff. So I'm super stoked that he's doing it and seems to be, you know, having a great time. The guy's never played arenas before, and he's a terrific guitar player. And now he's out on an arena tour with Kiss and playing. So I think it's awesome, and he's a really nice guy, and you know, great thing. I mean, he's, you know, probably, I think, a little bit older than I am and stuff, and it's he deserves to have a gig where he's out, you know, and featured, and what a gig. It's a perfect gig for him, you know. So those are all my takeaways. Like the band more. I couldn't even see the drummer. I mean, it's like I really couldn't see him. I had no idea who he was. I could see the kick drum kind of, and even with the screens and stuff, it was like I never saw his face once. Yeah. Anyways, okay, what else is going on? Who's DLR's guitarist, says Arthur? Yeah, it's Al Estrada. So actually, they called me, is the story, and I'm sure they called a few people to come down and audition, but they called me and said, would you be interested? Or the guy texted me, actually. I thought about it, and I said, just call this guy. This is the right guy to do it. I was like, I can do it. This is the guy you want. He's, you know, I think I could have come in and done that, but Al is, Al's going to walk in. I was like, just call him. And he went down literally the next day. And, you know, I think like 36 hours after that, he was like, yeah, I got the gig. So it was because I knew he would walk in. I mean, I would have to sit and practice and like really learn the tunes and stuff like that. Al knows, it's in his DNA. It's in his, like, he just knows. He could have walked in and been, well, what song do you want to play? You know, any of the Van Halen catalog. I'm sure he had to learn Dave's solo stuff, but you know, he just knows all that material. So it's like he walks in and he picks up a guitar and plugs it into the amp and turns it on. And I'm sure it was just like, oh, and he's got the sound, he's got the Variac, he's got the, you know, the whole rig he's got it all. So it's like, there's your guy, you know, he'd be perfect. And he's definitely the right guy. William says he's got to go to the gym. Have fun, man. Work hard. Have fun and work hard. I got to start going to the gym. It always makes me feel better. I gotta, like, I mean, physically, but also mentally. It's really great for my mood. Is my PT-15 suitable for metal, says September Fire. I want to try out on my overloud plugin soon. The PT-15 for metal. So it's really like if you think of it as a modified Marshall, like an optimized JCM 800 that's been tuned in, that's really what the distortion sounds like. So for metal, I would say if you want to play like really heavy stuff with it, probably adding an EQ and shaping the tone a little bit and stuff like that via EQ, or it was, you know, or it depends what your definition of metal is. It's not a 5150 or an amp that has a 5 gain stages in the front or whatever. It's like a Marshall with an extra gain stage, is what it is really. So think about more like that modified 80s thing. Lots of guys, you know, when I think about Kerry King or different people with a JCM 800, using a hot pickup and the right, you know, like an EQ or a boost, adding, you know, with a certain thing, you can definitely get it in that zone. But it's not an angle, you know, Savage or like when I try the different. I've got the right there. I've got an angle Savage module in that Synergy pre. And running that into the PT-15, I was like, oh, I really like this actually, because it's like I can get that. That's kind of like I've got it sitting there purposely for that. Out of all the Synergy modules, I quite like the Angle Savage one for like metal that I've tried, out of the Synergy ones that I've tried. And I thought that mates with the amp really well. It's an alternate tone to channel 2 and 3. Channel 2 and 3 does that classic modded Marshall thing in my amp, and that's a little bit more that vicious modern thing. So that's my take on it, my honest yeah. What What else we got here? Somebody's in Algeria. Wow, Nazim, welcome. That's cool. Love that people are here from all over the place. So awesome. Nice to have you here, man. Let's see. The Victory Sheriff V4 preamp pedal is good, somewhat budget alternative to a Plexi type amp. Is the Victory Sheriff V4? That's from James. James Taylor. Is that the James Taylor? I don't think so if you're asking about Plexis and stuff. But God, you get that all the time, don't you? I'm sorry. I apologize. I had to. It's like the like an Office Space, the Michael Bolton. You Office Space fans, it's my favorite movie of all time. I think you'll know what I'm talking about. Michael Bolton. Oh, I just love his singing. Oh God. Victory Sheriff V4. So my favorite of the Victory modules that I tried, which are sort of similar, it's funny, we're moving from Synergy to that, and they're kind of similar in that you can put them with an amplifier and then switch the amp in and out and use the preamp of the Victory thing. My favorite was the Kraken, quite like that. And then what's the other one I tried that was kind of the Guthrie one? But the Kraken one, that was also a good modern kind of metal thing. Rabia, I think, had something to do with helping them design that, I think. The Sheriff, I wasn't as, just for me, I was like, you know, I didn't think it did the Plexi thing, to be honest. But that's just my personal opinion. I could be, you know, what the hell do I know? But I know what I like for a Marshall, I guess. And I mean, for instance, the Synergy with the Plexi module in it is really damn good, I think. So if you want to get that thing out of something like a preamp. Yeah. ST Design says, I like Michael Anthony plus EVH's backup vocals a lot. They had an amazing blend, you know, back in the day. And everybody always gives Mike credit, but Eddie's singing too, all those harmonies. And Eddie's just got a distinct character to his voice, and it was the blend of the two of them, you know, for sure. Eddie was the singer, I think, in Mammoth. I mean, the band before Van Halen, he was actually the lead singer, I think. That dude can sing. Sure he can. Let's see here. What's my DAW of choice? Logic. I use Logic Pro. That's Michael from northeastern Pennsylvania. Have you ever checked out the tone on Mental Health or Jake's sound on Ultimate Sin? They're almost identical, like a hot Eddie tone before that tone existed. Well, I think they kind of invented that tone. I mean, really, it was probably, my guess is it's probably both Jose Marshalls. I mean, I don't know what Jake was using on Ultimate Sin. We should look it up. Somebody go Google, do a little research on what Jake used. But I bet anything it was like a modded Marshall. And I think Carlos Mental Health was also, wasn't he a Jose guy? It's funny, I've been educated a little bit. Yeah, and somebody's giving Jake. I didn't mention Jake at all, and I have to mention Jake Fawn, mostly Rhythm Edwards, says, yeah, Dave Lee Roth's other guitar player. I'm sorry I didn't mention Jake at all, but he's playing rhythm guitar on the tour as well. You know, you go see him, and you're gonna mostly see Al because he's playing all the flashy solos and stuff, and he's my friend. But Jake, I did speak with him. He's a very nice guy from England, and let's give him some props too. The band was great. They sounded really good. I thought did a real credible job. What was I on about? I don't even remember. Talking about modded Marshalls, and I was talking about I got a chance. I mean, through knowing Dave Friedman and stuff like that, I've had a chance to play Jose's, and I've learned a little bit about the different Jose. There's, you know, 3 or 4 different things that he used to do commonly, I think, to amps. And it's kind of interesting, you know. His whole thing was to get the amp to sound kind of like a cranked amp, but at a lower volume, I think. So by putting he had the Zener mod thing and the gain stage in front of a Plexi and certain master arrangements he would do and 2 gain controls and all this stuff. But ended up with, you know, never sounds exactly like the cranked amp, and it had its own thing going on. And it sometimes could be all those things, and sometimes it could be only one of those things. So when people say a Jose mod, it's like, which one is it? You know, kind of interesting. Yeah. Gitbox is talking about the Acoustasonic. Seems like it'd be cool at $500, not 2K. Well, remember, it's an American-made guitar. So when you consider a Strat that's made in America now, how much that costs, I know it seems like you're basically just suggesting, I guess, that they make it overseas by suggesting it should be $500. It's a really good guitar. Here, let's get it. Let's get it. I have mine hanging here somewhere. What did I do with it? Wait a minute, it was here. Why do I always feel like I hang things up and then I can't find them? I have no idea where it is. Maybe I put it in the other room. I put it in the other room. Now I'm just talking to myself while 400 people watch. Ridiculous. Honestly, I don't know what I did with it. I think I might have put it in a gig bag in the other room. Anyway, sorry, I don't have it here right now. Thought I did. I was going to strum a few chords. But nonetheless, I'd like it. If you watch my demo, I thought it was really. It's a cool tool. I don't know. I mean, they don't look exactly like the traditional. But keep in mind, if it's, a Strat is a solid piece of wood, and you carve it out. This is an acoustic guitar. It's actually got, it's in some ways I'm getting at. It's more difficult to make probably than a solid body electric guitar. And so I know it's not maybe the most. It's niche for sure, but I quite like it. What's my thoughts on the Fender Tone Master amps? Is lots of great questions today, by the way. My secret machine. What's the thoughts on Tone Master amps? Really pretty damn good. Dave Grohl's amp of choice. Oh, you're not talking about a Tone You're talking about the modeling. I thought you were talking about the Tone Master heads. Well, now I'm on about that, so I'm going to talk about those. That was a good amp. The Fender Tone Master. And I will get to what I think of the modeling one, even though I haven't tried it. But so I can't offer an opinion on the sound, but I can offer opinion on the concept, I guess. The original Tone Master head, though, had a clean channel and a dirty channel. It was really pretty. It was Fender's closest thing to a modded Marshall, probably, maybe other than the ProSonic. And Dave Grohl used those amps, and Yogi used that amp while I played with Chris Cornell. So I heard that amp on tour for 3 years. But really pretty good amp, the Tone Master. It's funny, Dave Grohl's amps of choice, I'm not sure if he's still using PT100s, but he had custom audio PT100s, the original one with Foo Fighters. And he'd switch between the PT and because he was recommended them by Bob Bradshaw, and he ended up using them. So he had 2 PTs and 2 Tone Masters. True story. For many, many, many years. Not sure if it's the same rig now or not. But when I see him on shows where he's only got 1 amp, like a television show or something, it's a Tone Master generally. Yeah. He does seem to gravitate towards those. A good solid workhorse rock and roll amp. Now you're talking about the modeling ones, the new Deluxe Reverb and the Twin. I wonder what the sales are like. Kind of makes sense in a lot of ways to me, the amp, because it's definitely a crapshoot, because modeling amps have always been put 500 sounds in it and give everybody all these options in a small package. Fender went the other way. Let's give them 1 sound. And we'll make it look like our classic amps, and put some IR capability in it, and we'll give them 1 sound, and it'll be kind of maybe for modern sort of pedal players that need an amp that looks classic. Can't talk to you right now. That's my buddy Jorgen Carlson from Government Mule, great bass player. Anyways, I think kind of for a lot of guitar players, if you're obviously, if you're a pedal board kind of guy and you just want a straight clean sound, that's a good basic clean sound, and then you want to get all your sounds out of pedals, it could be a good thing because it's nice and light. Saw a band last night for a minute play, kind of a new wave cover band. If anybody's in the LA area, Pasadena area, there's a bar called I always forget the name, but I think it's called the King's Head or King's Row Pub. King's Row or King's Head, I can't remember. And it's on Colorado Boulevard, and it's in Pasadena. And there's generally Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, some really pretty fun band in there playing covers, and but it's like fun bands. So I was in there last week, and there was a Latin band in there with 13 people in there playing with horns and everything, and it was going off. It was awesome. Last night was a 3-piece that was playing things like Flock of Seagulls and stuff. And these dudes, they were great, man. I mean, it was like it was like a new wave cover band, but it was super good. And everybody was like dancing and stuff. It was like, I don't know, it was good. The guy was playing a big old pedal board and a Strat, and he had a JC77, I think, like one of those. It was like a small JC120. Somebody's in the top chat, so I'm gonna get it before it disappears. September Fire, thanks for doing the top chat thing. I saw Lynch Mob last night. George was killer. He looked in good shape, and he played old Strats, not his ESP. Really, old Fenders. That's interesting. Wow. I see George sometimes, and he's a great God. I love that guy. He's got his spirit and his attitude are really great. And you see it in his, like, he's always if you follow him on Instagram and stuff, it's a pretty good follow because he's kind of funny and he's always putting up pictures. But he loves guitar as much as he ever did, it seems, and he's really kind of vital. Like, he's not a young guy, and he's like, and I saw him a while ago, and I said something about like guitar. I was like, God, the guitar, we're still just doing it. And he's like, well, it's fun, man. It's awesome, right? I mean, it's great. Turn up the amp, sounds awesome. He's still like got this great attitude. I felt like I sound like an old curmudgeon or something compared to him with whatever I had said, So, but anyways, I like George a lot. I forgot my whole train of thought, whatever I was talking about before. But just with the modeling amps, the new, it sort of makes sense for a certain kind of player. I think if you're a young player, you play out gigs, clubs, and you've got a lot of pedals and stuff, and you don't really have this, like, it's like vintage guitars for a lot of younger players have no, there's like, I don't know, like they don't have this like nostalgia that we do if you grew up in the 70s or the 80s or whatever, and you grew up like, oh yeah, like the 70s guitars or 60s guitars, we have this nostalgia about them being better or whatever. A lot of younger players, they just don't have that connection to the older guitars. So, it's like, let's take like the guys in Polyphia or something could probably give a shit about a vintage Strat or Tele or whatever. They just have or Les Paul. There's like, they'd just rather have their Ibanez or whatever. This is like a reality of or Strandbergs or whatever. It's like younger players, it kind of soldiers on or whatever. And there will always be some people that are into the older stuff. And I think anyways, for certain players, it's like those Fender amps, it's the same thing with tubes. They're just not going to have a lot of younger players are getting their sounds out of Axe effects or out of, like bunch of pedals and a clean amp. And you can't really tell them. I mean, and I have mixed feelings about it because I love tube amps, and I just feel like, God, really? But it's like a lot of them are like, yeah, I love my Kemper or whatever, love it. Okay, it's like I like mine too, but I still, it's a great tool. I'm still drawn to tube amps, but it's like a lot of the younger folks are like, yeah, I love my Kemper. There's no right or wrong. So anyways, what else we got here? I'm going to move down to the bottom of the chat and see where we're at. We got almost 400 people. You guys show up every week. I love you. You're the best. Baby John says, I use a Marshall Vintage Modern combo. I remember those. JTM style. Those were with the KT66 tubes, right? Vintage Modern. Set to slight breakup, boosting with the TS10. I struggle with the quality of the loop for delays. Any alternative options for the loop? Well, the thing I would probably do if you like your amp is actually have your loop modded. I would get the loop looked at and maybe have a proper loop put in that amp. You could do something like the Metro loop or something, and a tech that knows about such things. If you're in a place where, somebody like a Friedman could look at it or something, you could probably have the loop looked at and tweaked. Because not all loops are created equal, that's for sure. And if it's not right, then now it could be just a question of like maybe you need to add a buffer, something like an Empress buffer or something like, either on the return or on the send. You could experiment with that. I would probably ask, that'd be a question I would ask somebody like a Dave Friedman. Like maybe email him, racksystems@yahoo.com, and ask him if he could tweak your loop, or if he knows like on something like a Vintage Modern, if a buffer would help or something, but yeah, it's just like not all loops are created equal. That's for sure. I think Jake used a Boss OD1 with the Marshall and EVs, says Matthias. Jake used a Boss OD1 with a Marshall and EVs. That's possible. I mean, an OD1 was a great sound with a Marshall. Boss OD1 lops off a lot of low end, like even more than a tube screamer to me, in my experience. And yeah, that helps them pair with the front end of something like a JCM 800 or something just perfectly, because you're adding gain, essentially a gain stage in front of the amp, and you're attenuating, because those amps can be like not the tightest in the world when you're boosting them with stuff. So it was always a great combo, kind of terrific for that sound. Yeah, and EVs, a lot of guys use EVs. Zach always used EVs too. Nothing like those EVs in a 412 though for your back. Anybody ever try and lift an EV loaded 412 cabinet? Not fun. Okay. What else we got here? Bent says Jakey Lee uses a 77 Marshall 100-watt head stock powering a 412 with EVs. Yeah, and maybe that's with the boost, right? With the OD pedal. Yeah. Doc IC says, I feel like I've always seen Dave Grohl with Mesa Boogies. No, he's maybe he used rectifiers or something for a while, maybe, but no, his rig was, I can find pictures. I've got pictures of it where his amp rack with 2 PTs and 2 tone masters. And generally you see him a lot if he's just got one amp on stage or something for something, it's a tone master. And he used those tone master 212 cabinets too. You might have used Mesa a long time ago, but not for quite some time. Have you played any gigs in Toronto? God, many. That's Arvin up there. I was there not long ago for a clinic, but I've played Massey Hall. I've played the Phoenix. I've played all over that town, man. I've played the Horseshoe, I think. Yeah, a long time ago, I played the Horseshoe with Blink of the Star, like 20 years ago. And I played like, where did I play there with Henley? I think that was Hamilton. So we did like the arena in Hamilton instead of doing a Toronto gig. But yeah, with Chris Cornell, I had a really fun gig. Actually, it was his birthday at I remember Massey Hall. And my mom and my sister were there, and they went out and got him a cake. And they went to the store and bought him a cake because it was his birthday. And I was like, could you guys like do me a favor and get me? So they went to the grocery store to, cake place or something, got him a cake. And we were on tour with Juliette Lewis opening, and Juliette brought the cake out to Chris on stage in our set, which was really nice. It was a nice gig with my mom and my sister there and stuff. So it's a really good memory of a Toronto show. And then I played Massey Hall again with Melissa Etheridge a couple years after that. Remember that. And so I've done Massey a couple times. But yeah, the first gig I played there with Chris was the Phoenix. And then there was some place down by the lake that was like a big shed, kind of arena, modern kind of looking building or whatever. Not an arena, but like a sheddy, kind of like a big club kind of thing. And we played there the second time I played there with Chris Cornell, I think. Or maybe the third time. God, I can't remember. But yeah, we did at least 3 Toronto shows, maybe 4. How much prep time do you have when you played with Ian Thornley for the Sir show? Sounded great. Thanks, man. So I rehearsed the band once. We learned 5 tunes, I think. 4 or 5 tunes. And then we were doing my set too. So there was like 4 or 5 of my songs and 4 big rec songs or something. And then Thornley, I never even met until the day that we played with them. That was the first time we'd ever met. We were Instagram friends, but we'd never met in person. And so that was like the day after I rehearsed the guys that played in the band. And he came down, and the stage did not sound that great. I remember it was like kind of hollow at that Sir show, and it had this kind of weird sound. It was just kind of sounded weird on stage, but we set up, and he used a borrowed Classic and a pedal board they put together with him for a few pedals. And he had a custom audio PT100. And he set up the stuff, and we ran through the stuff once or something and kind of got sounds dialed in. And then we did the show that night. And that's what you see on that recording. like literally, like we barely just met the guy. And it was magic, that gig. I think I love that version of Blowing Wide Open. I'm sorry, but I think it's kick ass. And he played this. I mean, he's played the song a million times, obviously, but to sing like he's, to walk in with a bunch of guys you've never played with and on gear that is not yours. If you guys haven't seen it, go check it out. It's the 2013 or 2014, I think 2014. If you just search Big Wreck Pete Thorn or something, it'll pop up, actually, or Ian Thornley, Pete Thorn. It'll pop up and you'll see we did Blown Wide Open, Control, that song, and a couple other tunes. He did that blues song on we did You Caught My Eye, and it was the blues one. They play Slide on the telly. I can't remember the name of it, but anyway, it was cool. And I actually mixed that, so but I'm really proud of that show, that it went as well as it did on almost no rehearsal with a bunch of guys that hadn't really met. And I mean, I know the other two dudes, but you know what I mean? Ian hadn't met any of us. And on gear, I just couldn't believe how well you can see him at the beginning of Blowing Wide Open in the video, tweaking the delay and stuff, because it's not his shit. So he's like literally down on the floor and he's playing, and then he's down turning the knobs, like, and then he comes in singing like a friggin' bird, man. And it sounds like just gorgeous, I mean, the tuning is like, and his delivery and stuff. And then you'll see in the second verse, Blair dropped out on the drums, and that was totally spontaneous. And I love when he's one of my favorite drummers as far as being sensitive to the song and listening to the other players and stuff. And he just dropped out, and then without missing a beat or whatever, just Ian just goes with it dynamically and stuff and sings, and then we built it back up. And it was this, I don't know, man, it was a really magic chemistry, I thought, that night on that gig. I would love to play with that guy sometime. I would, in a band context, because that was, I know, it was pretty magic, I think. So he's a great dude too. He's just, I don't know, he's just, obviously an amazing musician, but a really funny guy too, and just fun hang. Quick question: I have to choose from a Line 6 HX Stomp and a Headrush gig board, says Nazim. From your experience, what's the closest to real amp feeling? Both really good for a modeler replicating an amp. I mean, I thought the Headrush does it really well, and the Line 6 does it really well. The gig board's a little bit bigger and going to be a little bit more, the HX Stomp, I think, is awesome. And maybe if you add an external pedal to do some of because I think there's some options as far as doing that, to switch things on and off. I would, if it was my main modeler I was using on gigs, I might feel limited. It's an incredible little box because it's so small, but I don't know that I would, unless you're very, very basic kind of presets and you just need a few sounds or whatever, work great then. But if you want to get into, switching things in and out, like turning effects on and off within patches or things, I would go with the gig board for that. I would go with the HX Stomp as a jack of all trades, tiny, throw in your gig bag, like awesome thing to have I mean, they're both great. It's just in the physical size that it's in. It's, I'm using the Helix a lot lately, man. I mean, I used it in the Looper video this week. I've got a setup now where I can easily plug into the Helix and then run it straight into an amp. And I've got the Helix, I've got a rack Helix in my rack over here. And then on the floor, I've got the floor controller for it. And for doing stuff, like if you watch the Looper pedal video, all the sounds, the fuzz and the modulation and all that stuff, that's coming from the Helix. I'm switching between the sounds, then doing all the looping with the Infinity 2 looper from Pigtronics. That was what the video was really about. But the sounds are coming out of the Helix, running right into my Princeton reverb over here. So I just had the amp set clean with a little bit of reverb on it. And then the Helix is doing all the effects. And I'm finding it really like, it's an awesome tool. And I really like the effects, actually. Things like the pitch shifter and there's a couple choruses in it that I really like, and the delays, and just having the ability to, like I say, I'm using the Helix. I've got two of them here. I've got the big Helix, and I've got the HX effects down on the floor over here. I'm using with the PT15 to dial in for, I could just move the camera around, but I can't. But I'm dialing that in with the PT15 to use on this gig next week. I don't know. It's a tool I use a lot, I guess. It's good. It makes sense for me in my workflow. Yeah. Renaissance Man says, love my HX Stomp, perfect practice home recording tool, but still prefer my Angle Iron Ball tube amp. Yeah, there's something about an amp, right? That just, you know, it's like good tools, all these things. How would I rate the quality of Positive Grid Bias Amp 2 plug-in versus Kempler Fractals, his tightest guitar? I haven't had a lot of experience with Positive Grid. I think I did a demo for them way back with the Celestion IRs. It's been a minute though. I remember it sounding pretty good. Man, all these modeling things, it's like Honda or Toyota or Mazda or you know what I mean? They're all kind of like pretty solid. That'll get you from A to B. None of them sound bad to me. You know, so. Renaissance Man says, hell yeah, Pete Thorn. The Pigtronics looper is amazing, but huge learning curve. It takes a minute. I wouldn't say it's huge. Not for me anyway. For some, you know, everybody's different with the way they learn things. But there is a learning curve to it. And you know, with all looping things, it's kind of like you got to practice with them. I find it's a skill that I never really developed. But Adam wants to know if I joined an Oasis cover band. I think he's talking about my haircut. I'm just enjoying my mod grow out phase right now. I don't know what's happening with my hair. I got it cut 2 months ago, and I'm just gonna see what happens. You know, I'm just gonna go another 2 months, and I'm probably gonna start to look really foolish soon. So if I don't already. Will you send a PT-15 to Ola, England to see if it will chug? I would love to do that. I like that guy. He's cool, man. I met him at NAMM. He's really nice. I only got to talk to him for a couple minutes, but I'm a fan. I like his videos. Ola testing shit. Love it. Smelly Telly says that he wants to start making backing tracks for his students to practice improv over. Do I still use the drummer feature in Logic? Yeah, it's cool. It's not as cool as like you know, Easy Drummer 2 or something, but it's cool. And it is really easy to use, and it works for that purpose. I think it'll work great, you know. Run the drums through a little compression and EQ them up a bit and stuff, and it sounds pretty cool. It's a little sterile sounding, the Logic drummer on its own. The cymbals, the way they fade kind of quick. It's not as realistic sounding as some of the other ones, but it can sound really cool. You can work it. I've used it only that on a few demos, just because it was the right thing for a few things. So take the classic rock show to Australia, says Irikanji. Would this ever be considered? Yeah, I think they would. I think they're talking about taking it different places. I don't know where exactly, but not yet. But it seems to be a good idea that's on the upward trend, and they're, you know, talking about doing other things. I sure had a lot of fun. Let's see. Got the HX Stomp, but how in the hell do you download a 100-page plus color manual? I don't generally, that's from Tim. I don't generally download manuals for things. I'll just look online when I need to, because there's always a PDF version of it. So you can always download that and then keep it on your computer. I hate paper. So the whole like online billing and stuff is actually a real great thing for me, because I hate mail and I got envelopes sitting on my desk here right now that I just hate them being there. But the less paper in my life, the better. You know, so I wouldn't even bother if I was you. I would just download the PDF or go to it. I literally don't even usually do that. I just go to it online when I need to know how to do something, and I'll do it on the web page version or whatever. You know what I mean? I guess you've sort of downloaded it within Safari or whatever you use at that point. But anyways. This is interesting. Ever heard of the Voice Meter Banana? You can mix all kinds of guitar inputs into your stream. You should check it out. I've never heard of that. The Voice Meter Banana. Voice Meter Banana. Look at that later. I'll leave the it's an advanced audio mixer application endowed with virtual audio device. Use a virtual audio in and out to mix and manage any audio sources. Cool. Yeah, that looks interesting. I see a bunch of YouTube videos on it and stuff. thanks for the recommendation. I will check it out. Maybe it can be a path to the future of this live stream. 401 people online. Good to have you here, folks. Thanks for doing the thumbs up thing. I like that. Really appreciate it. I do. It's 12:49. I started at 11. I'm gonna go 2 hours today because it's a nice flow and I'm having fun with you guys. Yeah. Jason Carter says, I live in Germany and sir means sweet. That would explain the tone. Yeah, he's a Danish guy. It's a Danish name. But yeah, there you go. Multiple things it means in different European languages. Preston Smith says he uses Ola's chorus and Marrow Gate in bias effect. He likes that. It's perfect. He says, when you're playing by yourself at home, or do you try and play with the same tone you would have in a full band mix? Or do you like to have some more bass for a bit more life, says Torrance. No, generally I have this exact same tone that I would use. I mean, I'm used to hearing my guitar through studio monitors for most of the last 10 years, I guess, or 15 years. And playing with the kind of the sound I would record with or play live with, I guess, not using a cabinet in the room. That said, it is really fun sometimes to play with a cab live. And now I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot what that feels like. It's nice, you know. But no, generally speaking, I most of the time would just play with the same, you know, my amp is dialed in the way it's dialed in for, I've got the tone control settings exactly the way almost that I used on tour. So what's my favorite delay and reverb without presets? Well, I mean, that's Dylan M. That's a wide open question. Delay and reverb without presets. There's one right here, I think. Let's look at this. This is a Crazy Tube Circuits Sidekick. And it's got, I think this is mod. I haven't done a demo on this yet, but I'm supposed to. Yeah, look at this. It's got a reverb built into it that has shimmer and stuff, as well as standard reverb. And then it's got mod. Does it have delay? Is it delay? Yeah, that's delay. So this is delay, and this is reverb, and this is mod with a simple flanger and chorus. Pretty cool pedal. Flanger, chorus, reverb, delay, all in one with no presets. Let's pick that one because we know it sounds good because it's Crazy Tube Circuits. It's got an XLR out. I wonder if it's got speaker sim. I think it does. Yes, there's a speaker simulator on it. That's pretty cool. So you could take this pedal. I'm just kidding. I plugged it in once. I do know sort of what it sounds like, and it does sound quite good, as do all their pedals. They've always got the great kind of analog-y sort of mojo to them. Nice vibe. But it's got a speaker sim. So you could plug something like a distortion pedal into this and then have this after it and the speaker sim and have a little rig, basically. Or maybe something like an Iridium. If you use like a Strymon Iridium with this, although it's already got the speaker sim. Maybe a preamp pedal that doesn't have speaker sim. But anyway, speaker sim that's defeatable if you want to use it. 15 dB pad. Oh, it's got a headphone jack too. Interesting pedal, right? Kind of interesting. Gives you all the main mod effects with some delay and reverb, speaker sim, and then some options for listening direct with some cab stuff going on. That's pretty cool. I like when people do different things with pedals. I'm excited about this. Look, I got one of these here. I gotta plug this damn thing in. I better do it today. Oh yeah. Anybody ever hear this thing? This thing is cool. I've seen it I remember seeing it at NAMM a few years ago when it first came out. It's probably 4 years ago now or something. It's been out for a while, but it's a hold pedal. So you hold it down, it'll sustain whatever you played, and then it's like pads and things you can create. It was bitching. So I can't wait to plug this in. I had to get one of these. So I bought it from them, and I'm gonna make a video of it actually. But I contacted them and said this wasn't one that people were like, "Can we send this to you and make a demo?" It was like, I'm buying one of those from you. And anyway, it's awesome. Sounds killer. Killer. Although I haven't plugged it in yet. I haven't tried it myself, but I've just seen other people use it. I'm like, that is the coolest thing ever. All right. Arthur's recommending I check out the solo to Welcome to the Club from Vandenberg. Adrian Vandenberg's solo is brilliant. I like all these recommendations. I've got this banana thing I need to look at later. I've got a Vandenberg solo. Okay, I'm gonna open up another page just real quick since Arthur recommended it. And Welcome to the Club. Vandenberg. Welcome to the. There it is. Okay, I'll check that out after. Thanks for the recommendation. Metalhead Hippies in the top chat up there. He says, "Who are the some of the first YouTubers you subscribed to?" I would say Justin Guitar. I met him early on, and I was really blown away with how successful he was, and he was making great instructional videos. And I was like, "Oh, that dude's got a cool, path that he's following." And so I subscribed to him right away. He's the first one that I can think of. Other people I subscribed to, I don't remember, to be honest, beyond Justin. But that was the main. I mean, if you haven't checked out his channel, it's pretty cool. Let's see here. The Loomis parametric EQ and bias is really good, says Preston Smith. So you guys are teaching me here. I guess there's a bunch of artist stuff going on with bias that I haven't checked out. I should probably check it out. Try it. It's been a minute. The guys from Mercurial, which is a company based in Russia, I think, that I did a video for a Marshall plugin that they make that I was really impressed with. They want me to make another one, so I'm doing that pretty soon. That's another plugin thingamajig. Wade Jones says that Don't Stop Believing Journey solo is the Roland Cube 60. Really? Neil used a Roland Cube 60 in that? Come on now. Is that true, Wade? That's amazing. Those things always sounded like the old ones from the 80s. They sounded like crazy. I had a friend with one. I just remember mid-range, like kind of a grindy mid-range. Watching the 2014 Sir show, says Daryl Stevens. It's sick. It is sick. Isn't Ian great? The solo he plays is amazing on it, and the vibe with the band was rad, I thought. And I did that. I tried to do I recorded a loop using my timeline at the beginning of Control to do you'll hear it if you watch Control. You'll see it's the Strymon timeline that I'm doing the loop with to try and get that kind of like part on the record. I love that song. How do you utilize the stereo widening feature of your second H9? Danny has that question. So if you want to set up a widening kind of effect, set up a stereo delay, set the feedback to 0, and hard pan the delays and set one side to, like you could use a ping pong delay, or you can use, stereo delay that has a different time setting for each side. But anyway, generally what I do is 35 milliseconds on one side and 45 milliseconds on the other side with no feedback, and then set the mix to about 15%. You're going to start to hear the sound get wider without a real obvious reverb-like thing going on or something. Give that a try. 35, 45 milliseconds, no repeats, about 15% mix. And then if there's any other settings, you can mess with them. But yeah, you blend it in so kind of low that probably just a basic digital delay or whatever will work fine. It's really nice in the in-ears, If you set it low enough, you can get a bit of spread in in-ears or for headphones or that kind of thing that sounds nice without bothering anybody at front of house if you're sending the same signal to a PA or whatever. It has just it just fattens the tone a little bit, and it's nice if you mainly got a mono sound. Yeah, is Ben Coombs still here, says SD Design? I'm not sure. He's generally around. I'm not sure if he is or not, though. Somebody was asking. Any suggestions for a sub $150 power attenuator, says James? I would probably search for something used. I don't know of any true good ones that would be... The thing about it is I don't really like the standard sort of passive way of attenuating an amp. It always changes the sound to me. So my favorite is the like the Iron Man's really good, and the Iron Man 2, the Power Station from Fryette, I think is really quite good. And it's I think they're $5.99. I've got mine sitting over here, and he's got a new version out. I think I'm going to get as well. As a matter of fact, I might kind of trade this one in and get the because now he's got a new version that's really cool. But and the one I tried, his new version of it sounds really transparent, switching it in and out with a Marshall anyway. That's how I heard it. But there's always a little bit of a change in tone. But I find the neat thing with the Power Station is that between the depth and the presence knobs on it and the switches to kind of tune the load and stuff, you can get a nice sound that no matter what might not be exactly the same as your amp unattenuated, but it's really close. And it's just a variation on really good. Whereas with a lot of them, like something, that attenuates, I find a lot of them are a compromise, where it's like, it doesn't sound as good. But anyways, yep, he used a Roland Cube 60 because it had a separate sound from the Marshalls he tracked the rhythm with, says Arthur. It makes sense. I mean, maybe, yeah, I mean, it's amazing when you're recording, like something like that mid-rangey sound of a cube might make that solo just pop like in a way that, in the mix that if you used the same amp, it would be a thing where you'd have to add a bunch of EQ or whatever in the mix. Generally, I add mids to most solos or upper mids anyway. I'm always adding 2K to lead guitar parts to just make it speak in the mix in the same kind of frequencies that a vocal would. I find 2K is a really good frequency. Yeah, for that. Maxime says, do I record my parts with delay and reverb, or do you add it later? Generally, I'll add it later, but sometimes I do. So, like, I did some stuff on my record, Pete Thorn 2 record, that where I used the aux. I recorded it in my apartment, my old apartment that I don't have anymore. But and I used the aux, and I would dial in delay and stuff using the because the delays in the aux are really nice. All the effects, the UA stuff, and then I'd be like, "This sounds great. I'm just going to leave it on and let's track it like this." And then I would, and so it would have delay on it. But anyways, or the other time where I'll track delay is when it's in front of the amp, like so an Echoplex kind of tape delay, or maybe an analog edgy. If it's the edge or any kind of analog Echoplex type thing, you kind of got to track it because it's got to come in front of the amp in order to get that distinct tone. If it's a stereo delay on solos and things or whatever, it's like, or something, like when we think about the interesting delay, I've talked to Bob Clearmountain about this a while ago, but like on Let's Dance by David Bowie, I was like, tell me about that. Like what happened with the that delay? That's obviously after the fact, right? And he said that Niall had played something just like dun 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 dun. That's it. He was just playing like stabs, and he goes, "Can you put something on that to make it more interesting or whatever?" And Bob, in its typical awesome Bob Clearmountain, completely understated, selling himself short sort of way, because he's a lovely guy. I mean, he knows he's great, but he's that's a great guy. This is a sweet guy, and he's very humble. He's so humble for all the stuff that he's done. He said, well, to be honest, I pulled up a preset in my delay and I turned it on and the mix was really loud, he said. And it was like, and he says, I was like, oh, that's too much. It was like the first thing that he turned on. He turned on the delay and the send knob was super loud out to it. And the delay goes, and Niall was like, no, that's it. That's perfect. That's amazing. And that's the sound on Let's Dance, So isn't that cool? Like that, when you think about that's all he was playing. And then Bob just pulled up a preset and it was a happy accident. And it's that amazing hook on Let's Dance. It's a great story. But I just love that that's how probably a lot of things were done. Just that haphazard kind of stuff, but he told me that story. I think it's in the video. I've got to get video done because I went and interviewed him, and he mixed a song for me, and he actually is mixing on the fly in the video. And so that's coming up pretty soon. It's going to be like an hour long because it's really cool. And he talks about his plugin and stuff. And I really have to finish it because it was like 4 months ago I shot this video with him at his studio. He let me come by, and you guys get to kind of be a fly on the wall if you're interested in that kind of thing and watch him work and as he's mixing, and it's cool. But anyways, yeah, and in conjunction with that, I'll be releasing a single because it's a song that he mixed for me, and I'm singing on it. It'll be the first thing I ever put out where I'm singing. But speaking of Journey, says Dallas, what's with their drummer? I don't know. I heard they kicked out Steve Smith and Ross Valerie, and it sounds probably like it's money stuff, you know. Yeah, a lot of drama with those guys, isn't there? I don't know. Can't we all just get along? I mean, it's like, I feel like, I don't know. Steve Smith, I mean, Dean was in the band the last time I saw them in 2014 or 15. So it's not even been that long that Steve Smith has been doing it. 5-6 years or whatever that he rejoined. Ross has been around forever doing it, but I wonder what they'll do now. They'll get a bass player, and probably I can guarantee it's going to be Dean Castronovo. I mean, I don't know that. I don't, you know. I've met Neil. I've talked to Neil. I like Neil. I mean, he was an epic guitar player, of course, but I've talked to him. He's an intense guy, but I like him, and I love his solos. And it's a big influence with something like Who's Crying Now and stuff like that. Is just, to me, like, I don't know, like if I could just play something like that, I would never have to play like a whole bunch of notes, just those beautiful melodies that he came up with, the solos, that you can sing. It's the best thing ever, so. Do I pull one ear out live or stay sealed up while on in-ears, says Guitar for Your Project? I always heard that's really bad, so I don't really do that. Occasionally I'll do it, like just for not an entire song. Like occasionally I'll pop an ear out, and then I generally play for a minute, and then I'll pull the other one out. So, but I heard that there's a thing that happens when you plug one ear and then loud sound is coming in the other ear, the ambient sound, and it turns, your brain compensates in a really bad way by increasing the volume of one ear or something, as opposed to splitting it between two, something like that. And I don't know, I can't remember exactly, but there's a medical reason why it's not a good idea to leave one ear in, evidently. You can suffer some, and I always just, go off that opinion that I heard. Jordan says, do you keep any guitars set up in odd tunings like ones for Soundgarden used, or are you mainly in E or E flat? I used to have my SG in the Soundgarden. Like it was a what was the tuning? FFCCC F, right? FFCCC F, right? Yeah, and that, like the My Wave guitar that I used for My Wave and for Day I Tried to Live, I always had that set up in that tuning, and also the acoustic I always had set. But I don't really do that anymore. I mean, there's stuff around here that's in E flat. I've got my black PT guitar is currently set up in E flat. So I'll usually have a guitar around in E flat and then a whole bunch in E, in case I want to do, sometimes I've had my Eddie Van Halen guitar tuned down to C sharp with a heavier set of strings, drop C sharp. In case it's like, oh, I got to make a video and I need this kind of vibe, I can just pick up a guitar that's got that tuning going. But somebody's asking about the Wade Jones, like Larry Carlton, Steely Dan. How do you say that word? I've never known how you say that song. It's embarrassing, but I have no idea. Kid Charlemagne. How do you say that song title? Somebody phonetically spell it out for me. It's an amazing guitar solo. Great guitar solo. Steely Dan don't have any bad solos on this. I mean, everything on a Steely Dan record is perfection. Oh God, they were good. I wish I was fortunate enough to get good mixes where I wanted to keep both ears in, says Will. Yeah, I know what you mean. Well, that's the thing with in-ears, isn't it? I gave up on in-ears. I decided I dislike them. I use them when I have to, but I don't like it. And I'm okay with that. Let's see. What's going on here? Somebody was in the top chat. It was SD Design. He's asking, am I going to Gearfest or Summer NAMM? I would consider going to Summer NAMM. I've never been to Summer NAMM, so I've always thought that might be fun to go out there and check that out. Like, why not go out and... But, we'll see what happens with this whole coronavirus thing, because a lot of stuff's getting canceled. We were talking about Gearfest. Like, is that going to happen? Or are they going to just postpone that this year? What's going to happen? I don't know. I mean, left and right, it seems like every day I hear about a new thing getting, yesterday was South by Southwest. And so we'll see, I'm seriously considering buying your axe, says Pret de Boy. Can you really get both Strat and Les Paul tones from it? I'm surprised with how good the neck single coil position sounds. It doesn't sound exactly like, a true full-on single coil, but it sounds great. Does it have chime on the high end? Yeah, totally. There's probably a couple other people in the chat here that have it, and I'll let them, because otherwise I just sound like I'm sales pitching my own guitar. But I'm blown away with how good the neck single sounds, and it's a sound I use a lot, actually, which is why I put it on the up position of the switch. I found myself using it as much as the humbucker sound. So it's pretty legit, man. And then the in between, the number 2 setting is something else I use all the time too, like where the 2 pickups are split, 2 singles. And that's a real chimey sound. If you're doing any kind of Mark Knopfler or something like that, that's a pretty credible. It sounds really good to me. So, and also I know the PT15 is 15 watts, but is it a loud 15 watts? Yeah, it's a loud 15 watts. It's like a headroom 15 watts, to the point where Charlemagne, says Brett. Thanks, Brett. Kid Charlemagne. I appreciate that. Thank you. It's one of those words I look at and it gives me stress. Charlemagne. Charlemagne, says Matt. Thanks, guys. You got it, says Kurt. I appreciate it. Charlemagne. Gives me anxiety when I see it. How do I say it? Anyway, PT and headroom, yes. Lots of headroom there. I ran the masters on them no louder than 4 or 4.5 at the gig, and that's for theater shows, and it was loud enough on stage for me. I didn't want it any louder, as a matter of fact, the sound guy would be like, that's, many times it'd become to balance. The other fellow, James, in the band was using a 45 watt amp, and mine's 15, and we would balance the sound on stage, and he would come to the front and say, like, okay, that guitar's just, balance out the levels on stage. We had the cabs kind of angled inward so that they weren't straight out of the crowd and hitting the front rows or whatever. They were kind of angled in so we could hear the guitars, and sort of when we were at the front of the stage, that's where the cabs were facing. And I had my master no louder than 4 on the PT's global master, and it gets louder up till about 6. So it's definitely making power tube squish at 4, but there's headroom left. Like I could get, probably another 5-6 dB out of the amp or something like that, going all the way up to 6 or so if I wanted to. 432 people online. What's up, everybody? Great to have you here. I can't leave now because this is like the most people we've had. So got to stay online for a while. Ben Coombe says he plans on being in Nashville for a week or so. I would love to go to Summer NAMM. Who goes normally? Is it fun? I don't know. I've never been. It'd be an interesting. I've been to 25 NAMM shows, I think, and I've never been to Summer NAMM. So it's like, combination anthrax and coronavirus for the win, says N. Dawson. Exactly, right? Music Messa is canceled. Really? That's interesting. I heard that show's getting smaller and smaller anyway, but that's really interesting. I wonder if Guitar Summit is gonna happen. The guitar show I've been going to in Germany. So I don't know. It's interesting. We'll see what happens with the whole thing. I'm sort of on the I traveled so much last year towards the end of the year. I mean, with the Asia clinic tour and the Europe clinic tour, and then doing the classic rock show, I felt like I was away for 6 or 7 months with little week breaks at home in between. I was just traveling constantly since August. And I got home this time and I was like, I do not want to see this suitcase. I just put it, I mean, I had a great time, but after 7 months or so, I was like, every day packing that damn suitcase. I was just like, I want to put that in the closet and just be home for a minute. And so I'm actually all good with like, I mean, if something great comes along, I'm happy to go out on the road or whatever, but I won't be sad if I just get to stay home for a little bit. I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. So I might just chill and stay away from my Corona. I have a Sir Pete Thorn Sig, and it's super versatile, says Daryl. Thanks, man. What color did you get? I wonder. I'm always interested in what colors people gravitate towards. Any thoughts on tracking through monitors versus amp, says Singles. Do your barefoots help? The barefoots are really nice. Have you tried the Footprint 01s? Who makes those? I have not. I've got Adams old A7s in here that probably are about due to be replaced, I think. And I've got, I mean, they're great, but I just think I've had them for 11 years and maybe I should get a new set of A7Xs. Or I really like Focals. The Focals I've heard, if you guys have heard those, I think they sound terrific. They make a nice set of kind of like midfield with 2 drivers in each and the high frequencies in the middle. And they're not that expensive. They're like 2,500 or something for both, which for monitors is not crazy for a monitor that's that big of a midfield. And they sound really good. My barefoots are really nice too, MM45s. And, you know, so I'm happy with what I got. I don't need another set of monitors, but yeah. Let's see here. Did everyone know, this is interesting, Jason Carter says that Thomann has a flea market once a year. Crazy prices. Check the videos on YouTube. I didn't know that. That's good information. Nice folks at Thomann. Did you ever get any guitar related injuries in your career, says Dupree Guitar? You know what's the weirdest thing, man? I've had hand problems since I got off tour. Like, so my left hand is bothering me and I can feel it right now. And it's, maybe I'll go to sports medicine, you know, make a doctor appointment, see if I can get a referral or something, go see somebody. I was fine on the road, but I just feel like nerve stuff, and it's probably carpal tunnel or whatever more. And I don't even know that it's guitar related is what's funny. Because like I say, when I'm on the road, I don't have problems. But when I'm home, maybe it's the way I sleep or who knows. I just think the way I'm aging or I don't know what. I think that my hand is just, because I was playing constantly on road. Now I get home and like my hand acts up and I'm not even playing that much over the last week. I did something to it about a week ago where I was tracking a solo right after I got back from tour on a friend's recording. And I was trying to get this one lick that I came up with. And I kept doing it over and over and over. And I was like, God damn it. I couldn't get it like exactly the way I wanted it. And then finally I nailed it. And then after that, my hand was like, I fried something in the middle of my hand right here. I was like, oh no. Like, and I could barely play later that day. And I was like, oh God, what did I do? And then I took some naproxen, you know, some Aleve storage stuff, waited, and then the next day I warmed up really carefully and it seemed okay. But it's a kind of a going concern these days. Like, I don't have a constant problem. Like I say, when I warm up generally slowly and methodically, it's okay. I just play really slowly and don't stress my hand, but I can feel it right now. I can feel like, I think it comes from here and then my carpal. I think I've got carpal tunnel stuff as well as elbow. Because I can kind of, it's like my whole forearm is a little like tight or something. And then in my hand, I feel like a little bit of tendon nerve weirdness. And if I'm very careful with it, my hand seems to warm up and then I actually feel it less when I play. It's so weird. But so it's, over the years, I've had that kind of come and go. Like even when I think back when I first got to MI, I actually started going to a chiropractor for a minute because I was playing all the time. And I would go to this guy and it was $50 every time I went. And it was like, I can't afford this when I was like really poor. And then I just started taking ibuprofen and that actually helped it a lot. So it's obviously just inflammation and nerves and tendons. And luckily never been completely debilitating for me. I've got friends like my friend Colin Cripps up in Canada. He's just went through the carpal tunnel and he was posting the pictures of the surgery. He's like, but he's recovering from that surgery right now. And I'm sure he'll be 100% soon, but who knows, you know, we'll have to do that one of these days. We'll see. Thoughts for high quality match pair of condenser mics, mainly for acoustic guitar, says John. I've got some nice ones here. They're not AKG, Audio Technica. I can't remember the model number, but I have them in my 40 ATM 450 is my matched pair of Audio Technicas. They're quite nice. Really like them, actually. What else? Sterling Audio I did a video of recently. They were good pair of small diaphragm condensers that were really inexpensive. I like the Sterling Audio stuff I've tried. They've sent me some headphones recently to check out. These are the S400s, I think they're called, and they've also got the S450s. Quite nice headphones, and this is the Guitar Center brand stuff. The mic they make, that is the ribbon mic I have on my cab right now in the other room. It's the ST170, I think it's called. It's a active ribbon microphone. The thing's awesome, and it's $199. Really killer. Anyways, those are my mics that I've got. Those Audio Technicas, they're quite nice, and the 450s, and check those out for a match pair. Okay. What else? Warren Hewitt says Summer NAMM is more guitar centric. Yeah, I could see that. That's Lauren. That it seems to be kind of smaller and geared towards guitar, which is pretty cool. Are you using your mic cab for in-ears or direct out? I'm using the direct out. They don't, for the whole tour I just did, we didn't even have a mic on the cab. Just took the direct out and ran that to the PA. So there you go. There's the endorsement for the PT line out. They were very happy with it. And we recorded the last show, so there will be, a recording and mix of a DVD or whatever it'll be. Probably some stuff on YouTube that'll come out, and that'll be a good demo, I guess, of the PT's line out when that stuff finally comes out. My Secret Machine says he's in Denmark, and what are my thoughts on? Oh, you already asked me that. The Fender Tone Master amp. Find that you say, oh, maybe this is a different. I think it's a different person asking the same question. Find them to be overpriced for a digital solid state amp that's made in China. Yeah, I mean it. Like I say, I mean it's like an interesting angle to go at a modeling amp, right? A one sound modeling amp, but I think it will appeal to a certain type of player that is mainly a pedal player that gets their tones out of pedals and needs a giggable combo that they can easily move around. Then that looks classic. Somebody that's in a cool indie band and wants that Fender look. They basically look like an old Deluxe or a Twin sitting up there, except for the little badge that says Tone Master or whatever. And so I think it's partially about the ease of use, partially about the, super light, tote it around, and partially about the look. It's got the look of the classic amp, and that is a lot to a lot of people, I guess. That it kind of has a classic thing going on. I mean, if they made a Marshall, that one could argue that the MIG series Marshall amps or whatever, or the modeling Marshall amps, if they just made them look like a Plexi, they might sell more. Right? I guess we'll see. Maybe Marshall will come out with this amp that looks like a Super Lead that's modeler, and it's an interesting idea. Yeah. I wonder what that was like. There was probably a meeting, right, where they sat around at Fender and they were like, what if I made a modeling amp that looks exactly like a Deluxe Reverb instead of making it, right? Because what I mean? We have that stigma. I mean, I do when I look at a Marshall amp and I go, oh, it's one of those modeling ones. I'm not interested. Let me see the 4-hole ones over here, like at NAMM or whatever, or you're in the store, you see it says Marshall, but we know it's not really a cool one, but what if it was indistinguishable? I guess Fender probably did that. What if, build it and they will come. Let's see here. Is mayonnaise an instrument? Says Anna, laugh out loud. I think no. I think mayonnaise is a condiment. Do I ever seek lessons still with people for particular styles? Curious what you might do to continue. I'm always jealous of, like, that's from Will. I think it's a great idea. Like, I hear about John 5 when he's on the road, that he'll go to local guitar teachers and just take a lesson. And I think that's amazing, that level of dedication. I don't really do that. And yeah, I need to do it more. I mean, you say, you know, not that you need to, you're amazing. No, I think thank you, but no, I mean, I have so much to learn still that I'm really, it's like when I'm on the road, you know, and you've got sound check coming at 3 or 4 o'clock and you get up, you tend to, like the tour I just did, it was this kind of late schedule where we'd go to bed at 2 or 3 on the bus every day. And the sleep I really got was once the bus stopped rolling at about, you know, 5 a.m. or something. And then I'd sleep till like 10 or 11 a.m. You get up, go inside, shower. Now you got an hour or 2 or 3, maybe at the most, to rove around before sound check. And then after sound check, you kind of got to hunt down some dinner, and then it's all of a sudden, before you know it, it's time for the gig again at 7:30. So it's like I would never find enough time in the day to do a hell of a lot of like anything other than just kind of eat, return some emails, maybe a little video editing, you know, because I put out a couple of vlogs while I was out on the road. Got another one coming soon. But anyways, you know, so that dedication of like, yeah, I'm going to go take a guitar lesson in most towns that I go to from somebody. I wish I was that motivated, you know, I really do. I admire that dedication, and I should get into it and take some. I love doing the video thing, but I'm not. Then it's not you know, when you got to go see somebody at 2 p.m. on Thursday or whatever, and you know you got to go, then you go. You know, it's not like other things, you know, get in the way. Like I love doing all the, you know, online stuff. You know, but I need to practice more. That's honestly the way that I feel. You make me think about it. Most of my time sitting here playing is like, okay, I've got like pedals videos to make here. So I'm plugging in a pedal, getting a sound, writing a song, and then trying to come up with a part. I'm creating. It's not really practice. It's more like writing. You know, you're composing stuff as opposed to like practicing new techniques on guitar. And I wish I could do both. That's all. A little bit more. I'd love to, man. I have this dream of buying an upright piano someday and playing, you know, taking piano lessons from some little old lady or something, you know, and go to old school, you know, having them like really kick my ass and show me how to, like, you know, because I can't play piano at all, but I'd love to be able to sit there and just play piano, you know, like have a nice one at my home or whatever. And that's like a, you know, one of these days I'll do that. I admire like Paul Gilbert because he obviously, you know, he started playing slide like in the last few years, and he's pretty good at it. You just see him playing slide all the time, and he plays piano and he plays drums, and he's just a musical guy, and he's a positive guy, and he's always seems like he's always moving forward in his career and also learning and, you know, doing different things stylistically and stuff. I love that, you know. He's a great role model for this stuff. I'd love to know how, like, what he worked on when he was like, what did you listen to, like, when you were like starting to pick up the slide, you know? Because probably I never saw him with a slide, like, you know, except for like maybe 2-3 years ago he started playing slide, it seemed like. So let's see here. Jazz Bass, sorry, says he went to the Marshall factory in Bletchley, UK this week. That's interesting. And had a $100,000 amp just sitting on the floor. Unusual museum. Afraid to accidentally put my foot through a one-off Jimi Hendrix head. Yeah, it's good. I could see that. Like, you know, there'd be. I feel that way when I go up to like the, you know, like vintage guitar store, and Norm takes you in the back or something and starts handing you these guitars. Like, I hope I don't fall over right now, and because I'm kind of clumsy or whatever, you know, break things. It's stressful in a way. But wow, we got 423 people online. Let's keep going. Why the hell not? I'm enjoying. I have a massive herniated disc in my back, says my knee is hurt. I'm sorry to hear that. That sucks. It makes my foot go numb, besides being painful all damn day. That sucks, dude. I know I've had a lot of friends with, man, back problems are like, I guess any kind of problem that's chronic, right? But back, it just seems like, you know, oh, what the hell am I supposed to do now if I can't lift anything and I can't sit and I can't. I remember my dad having issues with a disc, and it was like he couldn't really sit. He could stand up or he could lie down, but sitting sucked, you know. And it's difficult. So I hope you recover from that soon. Yeah. What else we got here? How closely does your actual career arc match the one you had in your mind when you were starting out, says Jeff Campbell? Not at all. Other than, hey, I'd love to play guitar and not ever have to get a job. But other than that, it's like it was a little bit haphazard, my career path, I would say, just in the sense that, you can't predict what's going to happen, like ebb and flow of different musical styles. I mean, for instance, I got to MI in 1990, and when I got there, it was full on Sunset Strip still. There was no Nirvana, there was no grunge, it was still 80s metal until 92. It really hung over until, it was like Hammer Time and 80s metal in 91. And like go on YouTube and look up the Grammys in 91 or something and watch some of the performances. You'll see who was on. It was that weird time in music where it's that crossover from, there was bands like Firehouse and stuff like that were, and it was like, where's this all going? Then it went to, grunge obviously happened. But I was just graduating MI at that point, and here I am in LA, and we're all working on, I think I practiced 8-finger tapping for like months, like trying to get good. That became very useless all of a sudden about 1992. And so there's your career arc all of a sudden. Well, what am I going to do now? Like, there's none of this, like, kind of, I've been working on this kind of hard rock shreddy guitar playing. Luckily, what saved my ass, I always say, is that my real musical roots were in the Beatles and the Who, and that was the music I really started listening to, not like technical guitar playing. So, because for a while there in the 90s, you could get arrested if you played solos, if you go in and do a session or something like that, nobody wanted to hear the solo. They wanted to hear, can you put an effect on it so it doesn't sound like a guitar? I'm saying they wanted you to play, think about the solo on Smells Like Teen Spirit or something, it's just aping the vocal melody with like a chorus on it or something, isn't it? So guitar solos are another thing. So all of a sudden all this stuff that you've been working on or whatever, and then, well, what am I going to do now? I'll play a different kind of music, I guess. And I got into doing an acoustic duo at that point, and I had my pop band, original kind of pop band that I ended up getting a deal with in Japan, but it had nothing to do with kind of like what I was working on in school. So already the arc had changed. But then I got a deal and with that band, and that got me into full-time playing music for a living. And then after that kind of petered out, all of a sudden, what am I going to do now? And that's when I started looking for sideman gigs and stuff in LA. Got in another original band pretty quickly too, and was still doing that. But I also got offers to, it was like, oh, this touring thing with different people. Hadn't anticipated doing that really. That was like, I didn't even know that existed when I first moved to LA, that you could didn't really think about it, like getting gigs with people as a sideman. I more thought like starting a band and writing songs. And then just things changed. And then YouTube, like this whole thing, like nobody knew that was going to happen. And it just like was an accident, really. It was very like not calculated the way this whole thing came about for me. The live stream, I mean, this thing, it's like, I don't know, I guess you can go live on YouTube now. Let's try this out. I don't know if you guys remember, but I used to do like, this is big, going back like 6 years or 5 years ago or something. I would have people, you guys, probably some people remember, write me questions, like email to Facebook. And then I would answer some of them and put them in a video and put it out. Well, it was really inefficient. People were like, hey, are you ever going to answer my question I asked you 6 months ago? And then I realized, oh, you can live stream. So this is a thing now. And it's always just staying ahead of the curve with all this stuff. And you never know what's going to happen. In 3 years, it'll be something else, So, yeah. Yeah. Dude, find a good massage practitioner and get a massage. It works, says Dallas, for my arm. Yeah, I think I should do that. I think I might go to the like my GP or whatever and see if they've got somebody they can recommend for sports medicine, because they do all that, like sports massage and all that. And generally those people, I've been to one of those people when I had some problems like 15, 20 years ago or something. I went to a kind of a physio sports thing, and they recommended some stretching and some different things. And I found it quite helpful back then. So I think that's the way I want to go about it. Yeah. Oh, I just saw somebody else talking about the nerve stuff, and they were talking about the ulnar nerve, I think, and stuff. And then I lost the chat, my place. Sorry. Anyways.
Yeah. Anyways, unfortunate, but I can't find it. Anyways, what's the best way to set up amp for pedals like master, volume, and tone control? Says Braxall. It's a wide open question depending on the pedals and the amp and the guitar you use and your style. It's tough, but I would say generally speaking, the number one thing with pedals is that most of them, not all, but most of them tend to work well into an amp that has a fairly neutral, clean sound. If you're using, okay, so like if you're using, it's a, it's an impossible question actually, sort of to answer as an overall blanket thing, because do you run some pedals in the effects loop? Do you run some in front? You know, if you're running pedals in front, everything, you kind of can't turn the amp up to the level of, you know, where it's quite crunchy and use delay and reverb very successfully, unless you're going for a really indie kind of sloppy thing, because the delay and reverb just blow up into the amp, right into the front, and it sounds messy. It can sound great too. It's a cool sound in some ways, but and I can contradict myself by saying Eddie Van Halen used an Echoplex right into the front of a dime Marshall. But the Echoplex, if you set the levels, the mix super low, you can get an Echoplex or similar delay to work in front of a dirty amp. But reverb, forget about it. It just sounds insane unless, like I say, unless you're going for that thing, you know, really indie rock kind of crazy sound. It doesn't work for most things. So you're going to want to set the amp to for the most part, kind of on the, like, think about how the Edge sets his amps. You know, when I think of like the way that guy uses an AC30, that kind of chimey, yes, it's overdriving, you know, but he's running delay into it, and it's got a great, you know, that's the sound that when I think of pedals in front of an amp, it's got a great vibey compression going on where it's compressing the delay and the chimey thing and all that stuff. With the AC30 and the right effects in front, it can be a really beautiful thing if you don't turn it up too much. You know, so like anywhere from like 4 to 6 on the volume is probably the magic, and depending where you put the EQ, because it's got that kind of unique EQ. But on something like a Fender, you know, it's interesting. I did that super reverb video a while ago. The Amps in the Zone video is probably a year and a half ago or something now. But I think I had the mids up way up on it, and it sounded really good to me. And running the amp on 4 or something was just great, you know. And then you roll it all the way up, and you get a little bit of grind when you hit the guitar hard, and then roll down, and it's clean. Something like that, you know. That's how I would set up a clean amp to use with pedals. Basically, is so that you got some range on the volume control of the guitar. The amp is basically crunching up a little bit when you really nail it, but you can lighten up. And then it does this beautiful thing when you run a reverb or delay into an amp that's set like that, where if you hit hard, yes, it blows up a bit, but it's really cool. And it's very sensitive to at that point, or when the amp's on the edge of breakup, if you drive the amp a little harder, very quickly your mix control on a reverb and delay and stuff can be, it's like, oh, I got to turn those down. It can be, but once you find it, like, oh, I'll set the amp right there 4.2 on the volume on a super reverb or something, you know, and then effects can sound just really brilliant into the front. It can be this really vibey thing there. Sometimes I like effects in front more than into a loop, because it does have a vibe and a great, you know, that compression and the effects bouncing back at you and stuff is kind of part of the sound. Really cool. You know, Eddie's another example. The Echoplex in front of him, Ain't Talking About Love or something, where it's a big part of the song to me. Al did it the other day. Al with Roth, he had the delay going on Ain't Talking About Love. And not even Eddie does that when I've heard him play in the last few years. But Al had the echo bouncing back just right. So I think he uses like some kind of, you know, Echoplex pedal or something. I don't know what he had on his board, but it sounded perfect. It was really good. It's 1:38, and oh, somebody's in the top chat there. Krager, Coffee Fund. Thanks, my friend. Thanks for doing that in the super chat. You're a good man. I'll go till 1:45. We'll do a long one today. Do almost 2.5 hours. So another 8 minutes here or something. Trying to get 300 thumbs up. Hey, we're almost there. We're 297 thumbs up. Somebody hit that thumbs up and help me out. I appreciate it, you guys. I'm going to go down to the bottom of the chat here and try and answer a bunch of stuff really quick for the last 8 minutes here or something. There we go. 308. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. Yeah. Let's see here. Edge also uses hairdim plectrums. Yeah, use some kind of, they're stippled so the strings cling to the pick and give that chime. Really? Isn't that interesting? You guys teach me stuff all the time. That's Jason Carter. I'd like to try that. One of those picks. I thought I had one of those around here. I think the one that he uses, but I don't know. But that's cool to know. I'd love to try one. Strat says, "Where is your nerve issue?" Strat Matt. I feel like it's in my left arm and kind of starts in my elbow, and then if I'm doing this and I'm kind of like putting pressure on my arm, I feel it in my hand with my nerves kind of tingling and basically all my fingers. Like if I'm squeezing this, so it's inflammation through here, I think, and when I do it here too, I feel it like it's the ulnar nerve, I guess, whatever somebody was saying, and then just kind of generally. But as my arm, it's interesting as I warm up, I don't feel it as much, you know. So yeah. Okay. What else we got here? What's my take on brand logos on parts of casters or replicas? Not misrepresentation when selling, etc. Says Stephen Douglas. Brand logos on parts of casters or replicas. Oh, okay. So like getting a Fender logo and putting it on or something. I don't have some. I mean, it's not technically, I guess, kosher to do that. Like, but I don't really have an issue with it. Like, if it's somebody that, you know, if you, like you say, you're trying to just make your guitar, there's something, I love the look with a spaghetti logo on a Fender headstock or whatever, you know, and I get that. And yeah, you don't want to misrepresent it. You know what? It's like at that point, you're putting if you don't misrepresent it when you sell it, and you're just putting it on the guitar to kind of have for a look thing, and you don't even plan on selling the guitar, maybe you're doing nothing but advertising for Fender at that point. It's like Slash with nobody knew his guitar wasn't a Les Paul. What did Slash do for the Les Paul? Honestly, when you think about it, he he brought the Les Pauls were not cool around 1987. There wasn't a lot of people playing them, just a few people. I mean, you said Sykes with one and stuff, but Slash really brought the Les Paul back in the same way that folks like Bloomfield and Clapton and Keith Richards and stuff did with the Burst in the 60s. The Les Paul was not a happening guitar at that point, and then all of a sudden 3, 4, 5 players start playing, and now Gibson's like, we got to reissue that Les Paul. Well, Slash did that for them in the 80s on a guitar that wasn't even really a Les Paul. It was a replica, but it said Gibson on the headstock, and that's all that mattered. So there you go. It's like, anybody playing a guitar, the problem comes, of course, when you try and represent it as though it's a Fender and sell it and stuff like that. So yeah, but I think that'd be my example. I would use Slash playing a replica Gibson and selling tons of, whoa, up to 350 likes. Thanks, guys. This is awesome. It was a good one this week. Oh, you guys, you're the best. I see the EP Pre is back on your board. Have you been using it? Yes. That's from Danny. Yeah, I used it on Eruption, and I used it when I played Jump. It's great, man. It's great to hit the front end of my PT-15 and get it just sizzling. Like, it thickens the tone in this great way. I'm telling you, I think that the Echoplex was a big part of the Van Halen thing. It's just a piece of the puzzle, but as much as the Variac, the Echoplex preamp had a sound to it. Running through an Echoplex gives you this different, a different broad. And I remember it from the first time I used, I felt similar about the old RE201s, the Space Echoes. It's like, this just sounds better when I plug into this thing. Like, even when I was a kid and I tried one, it's like, this sounds better when I'm running through it. Never mind the delay. The tone is better. Something about the preamp in those things, the way they buffer the signal or something. It was cool. Sean Murphy Journal was mentioning he likes Joni Mitchell. I like Joni Mitchell too. I listened to some Joni Mitchell recently because I went through a period where I listened to a lot of her. She came out with that album called Turbulent Indigo, which I really loved in the early 90s. It's got Landau all over it. But I fell in love with her stuff, actually, you know, I was about 22 or something probably when that record came out, and I was going through this whole like I said, it was actually kind of when the 80s metal thing fell out of fashion and grunge started happening, and I started listening to Alice in Chains and stuff and going, this is cool. It's like still heavy, but it's like different. And then I also all of a sudden started discovering Neil Young and Joni Mitchell, and I went, wait a minute, these are all Canadian singer-songwriters. I'm from Canada, and I had this whole Canadian singer-songwriter renaissance, and I had an acoustic duo at the time, and it felt really good actually to not play sort of rock guitar shred solos or whatever for a while. It was really in a way cleansing to just play like. And Joni's record, that record's really beautiful with all her crazy tunings and stuff, and I loved, you know, that record, and I did. Some people don't like that record, I think, but I thought it was great. Anyway, Turbulent Indigo, some beautiful songs, really heavy songs lyrically on that record. You know, some like that's the one where she's like kind of a when Jackson Browne got in trouble because supposedly there was some like Daryl Hannah, like maybe you know, abuse situation going on. She wrote a song about that that's really intense on that record, and so I guess probably foreshadowing the entire Me Too movement that happened 25 years later. But she wasn't holding back like on the lyrics on that, and a lot of it, I don't know. I love that record. Her playing was just like really, really pretty epic. Anyways, Les Pauls were cheap in the 80s, says Ian. They were, I remember. God, there was a 54 that like around the mid 80s, there was a 54 custom that is still in Lilo's Music in Edmonton, because I guess they decided to not sell all their vintage guitars. But in my hometown, this 54 custom with the, you know, Alnico, you know, whatever, the square magnet pickup in the neck and the P90 and that 54 custom style, that guitar is still there, but they were willing to sell it to me in the 80s for $4,500 or something, you know, 4,000. It sounded to me like when you're not 18 years old, that's like all the money in the world. There's no way. Wouldn't have been like an investment like a Burst, but it would be a $50,000 guitar now. So wish I'd gotten it. Maybe 35. Guitars have come down, I find. Would have been a decent investment. Pete, do you think a 70s Big Muff would work well with the SL68? Yeah, that's from Johnny. I'm getting more and more into the Big Muff thing actually lately. I love them with all the controls on like I guess they're all different, but for me, if I put them all on about 1030, it sounds amazing playing lead with it. I used the fake Big Muff in the Helix the other day for the solo parts or melody parts on the Looper video I put out this week. If you listen to that, I love that sound. So I love playing. It's such an easy sound to solo with. It's just fun. I guess Gilmour knew this in the 70s, but yeah, I mean, into the SL68, sure, it's gonna be really cool. If you want to do the Billy Corgan thing, go into the low gain input. He did it on JCM 800s, but that's his whole Siamese dream situation, you know, Big Muff into the Marshall low gain input with KT88s for power tubes. Slash played a replica, says Kurt. Did not know. It's true. The guitar was built by a guy named Derig, I think. And then he also had a Max, but the one that's actually on Appetite, the guitar that you saw him with mostly back then was this Derig or something. Guy was like somewhere out by the beach in LA, like Hermosa Beach or something. And it's not even, I guess, that accurate of a guitar, like the dimensions and stuff of the, but that was a guitar that he played. You know. JD Analog is asking me what are my thoughts on a Vibro King. Love that amp. I remember when it first came out, I tried it. I mean, it's a long time ago now. One of those first, you know, kind of new Fenders that were really cool, but 310s. And it's interesting because that's still, I think, Pete Townsend's amp of choice. And, you know, I love his tone, but he gravitated towards it. And I remember plugging in and going, this is a great rock and roll sound. Like, it's not like a super or something cleaner. It's got a bit of grind to it in a terrific way. So I really like the Vibro King. Like, I'd love to have one, actually. Never had one, but the few times I played him, I was always like, this is I don't know, it's just cool. Yeah. Let's see here. Les Pauls are still cheap. That's why I'll never own one, says Harley Hex. The Appetite Les Paul was built by Derrig. Yeah, Chris Derrig. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, physical therapist, not scalpel, somebody's saying, for carpal tunnel. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would never do a operation unless I had about 10 second opinions and, was told by multiple people that this is the only way to go for your, obviously. But generally speaking, having said that, I've never heard, I don't have an example, and I've got a few examples of people that have had carpal tunnel. I can't think of an example where somebody's like, oh, this permanently screwed up my hand. Everybody generally comes out of it with a pretty positive result, which isn't suggesting that you do it. That's just true. I haven't heard of anybody having a nightmare scenario with carpal tunnel. I think it's generally a pretty routine procedure, but I know it's pretty invasive and you're down for a while and there's a recovery period for sure. So not something to take lightly. Definitely something you want to try every available therapy option probably before doing, I would say, right? What do I think of oddball guitars like Aldo Nova's Les Paul with the Explorer headstock? Oh, wow. Yeah, that's our third. I remember that now. God, the weird things. The neuron fired back here somewhere. I was like, I do remember seeing that somewhere in a video. Kind of cool. I don't know. I mean, that's a particular oddball guitar, isn't it? Yeah, when you see a strange like headstock on something. I like seeing Pete Townshend's guitars that he would kit together kind of in the 60s when he was breaking stuff all the time, and you'd see him with a Strat with a Tele headstock on it, because you just know that he broke two guitars and then just bolted whatever neck on, Or actually, who else used to play a Tele with a Strat neck? Was Steve Morse, right? And that became his signature kind of thing. Remember that guitar that he played with the before he had an Ernie, he was a Fender, and with all his mods and stuff. I kind of like that. Peter Evans says, for Coffee Post Therapy, great Sunday show. Thanks, man. Up there in the ultimate top situation chat thing at the top of the page. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. I have to go get some lunch. And then I'm going to do some work today. Start a video or something. I got a bunch of songs to learn too. Yeah, somebody says the hockey stick on the Les Paul looks so weird. Yeah, it did look kind of weird. Agreed, I guess. Yeah. I had a replica of Slash's replica, says George. Yeah, I think Gibson reissued it, right? Didn't they do, like, Gibson did the Slash model, and it was like you're basically reissuing a Derrig, but it looked like the Appetite guitar, right? They made a bunch of those, right? Great show indeed this week, says Ben. Thanks, Ben. Thanks for being here. Let everybody know, Ben, in the comments when your show is tonight. I think Ben's got a stream tonight, so he's always here faithfully helping me out. I really appreciate it. Yeah. Let's see here. Supposedly that modded, you guys are now talking about Slash's modded Marshall on Appetite, was the number 34 amp, right? Or 39 or whatever from SIR. It was a rental head that had a mod that was done by, I have a schematic of it somewhere on my computer. Who did the mod? Caswell? Was it a Caswell? I can't remember. God, why do I know about this stuff? My brain's full of silly information. I think that's who did it, but I could be wrong. Just don't remember. And the thing was that I don't even think Slash really, they were all, partying and drinking back then. It was a rental amp. I'm sure nobody really paid that much attention to whatever was going on with it. And whoever produced the album, and Mike Klink, I think, whoever mic'd the amp, however they did it, was done at the Captain and Tennille's old studio in Canoga Park, I think. It was called Rumbo Recorders, and I worked there in the 90s, and it was cool, and it looked like ship, like the studio was like portholes and things around the windows. That's where Appetite was recorded. Yeah, and I remember working there in the 90s and doing some stuff there. And yeah, it's true. Just saying hi, says Tim. What's up, Tim? How are you? Thanks, man, for doing the top chat, ultimate chat thing. Yeah. Pete Townsend had so many Frankenstein types, as Arthur. Yeah. Have you, I don't know, sorry if I repeat myself, but the awesome story about how Pete started breaking guitars. I heard that what happened was he had his Rickenbacker in about 1965 or something, and he was playing a club somewhere and it had a real low ceiling, and he took the guitar off to change guitars, and it was a brand new guitar, and the headstock hit the ceiling and it snapped off when he took the guitar off, and he was so pissed off in a moment of anger that he just smashed the shit out of the rest of the guitar, and the crowd went insane. And then he's like, oh no, now I have to do this every night. But they'd found their thing, smash the gear. That's what I heard, that it was a happy accident, or maybe a not so happy accident at the time, but then yeah. Steve Morse had a Tele body with a lead 2 neck. Lead 2 neck? Really? I had a Fender lead. Oh no, I had a lead 3. Was it really a lead 2? I remember it having a big headstock, man. Maybe he switched it at some point, but I remember the neck having a 70s. I think he had a 70s Strat neck on it for a while on that guitar. Cover of Guitar Player magazine, maybe. Steve Morse. Let's see if I can. Here, let's see if I can find a photo here. I remember Steve Morse. Guitar Player magazine Tele cover. Let's see what Google comes up with. Google image. See if we can find it. Images. There. Oh, wait. I see that. Oh, no. I see the guitar, but you can't see the headstock in this one picture. Let's see this really quick here if I can find. There's the guitar. I see a picture. Somebody show the damn headstock. There it is. I think. Oh, God. It's like the headstock's cut off in every. Here, I can take a photo of it. We can see. I can show you guys on that. Let me see if I can find one more over here on the right. Yep, there it is. I found it. Damn it. That ain't no lead 2 headstock. Sorry, I'm not trying to be a smartass and prove you wrong or whatever, but this is how I remember it. And I think that's in the 70s, or, so the lead 2 wasn't out until 81 or 82. Right? I mean, that headstock looks pretty. I mean, no, I think that's a 70s, right? Look how big it is. Pretty sure. No? Discuss. Let's see here. Dunn says I look creepy. Well, I can't see you, so it's not fair, because we can't critique your look. Was a Tele Deluxe Steve Morse played? They had a big Strat headstock. Oh, is that what it is? Ah. So you're saying it was a modified Tele. I assumed it's so crazy with the different pickups and stuff. That's interesting. That makes sense to me now. I was picturing it was a regular Tele that he then gutted and put all the pickups in and stuff. But if it was a stripped black dual humbucker Tele Deluxe, it was the stock neck. God, I learned things from you guys. That totally makes sense. That is really interesting. Harley's saying that it was a lead 2 neck because that was a deeper U-shaped neck than the Tele, but I don't think so. I think I'm going to go with Toby Ellis is saying that it was a Tele Deluxe Steve Morse played. Okay, well, this is an interesting discussion. I'm not sure who's right and who's wrong, but I guess that could be as well. That was a strip Tele Deluxe. I did not know a Strat neck would intonate on a Tele body. Sure, yeah, that's Kenny. Yeah, you could totally put a, normal Fender small headstock, says Oscillation Overdrive. It's a big headstock. Toby saying, okay, you guys are talking about diet and exercise and stuff. Looks like a CBS Strat headstock to me, says Ben. Yeah, that's what I always assumed it was. But anyway, it could be a Tele Deluxe. That's true. That was just stripped. I'm not sure, but we got to go. Okay, let's go and do some research this week, and then we'll figure it out. Alan says, don't see it as, don't listen to haters. I see it as an early Elton look. I don't know what's going on with my hair right now. It's basically like it was in about 2001. I'm just cycling. I realize I've got 3 haircuts basically, and I just cycle them around. You know, what else are you supposed to do? Hey, it's still there, right? Thank you for not leaving. Appreciate it. I just feel lucky. Like Chris Cornell said once, I always remember, he said, I don't like having short hair and I don't like having long hair, but I do like having hair. That's how I feel about it. Never quite happy, but I'm glad it's there. Please don't go. Pete, don't you wish that everyone practiced as much as you so they were good, so they would know that gear is not as important? I don't practice that much, to be honest. I wish I practiced more. But yeah, gear is not the be-all, end-all. It's just a thing to help. Definitely. Have I ever met Elliot Easton from the Cars? Only on Facebook. We've had some exchanges on Facebook Messenger. He's a very nice guy. And he asked me a question, like a tech question a little while ago, which was wild to me when you get like, it's like, wow, I remember watching your videos when I was like in 1983 or 82. And here you are asking me about like a pedal or a switcher or something. You know, it's always a trip to me, but, and I loved his solos, you know. I always use the example of like, you know, Just What I Needed or Best Friend's Girl, these great guitar solos that he, much in the same way as Neil's showing. That to me means more than 10,000 notes or sweep picking or whatever, is the guys that recorded those solos that were like, you can sing or that are really memorable, you know? So, yeah. yeah. Anyways, Dan, you think Elton John looks creepy too, but you know what's funny? You don't have a picture with your name, an avatar or whatever. So show us what you look like, and then we'll decide if you look creepy. Take that photo. We'll wait. No, I gotta go. Actually, it's God, I went like another 15 minutes. This is bonkers. I think the shows end up being 2 hours and 40 minutes, but I'm having fun. It's a Johnny Marr haircut, and it's dope, says Murray. It's almost a Johnny Marr haircut. I would agree with that, except that Johnny's got the bangs, and I'm scared to do that. I want to go full force into the, although it might, you know, it's a thing, but then you got to do that thing, and then you're, I'm going to go with it's a little more currently, Paul Weller. I'll show you. Paul Weller. It's a little more Paul Weller currently. And if I can just get it that long in the back, I'll be pretty stoked. Right? I mean, come on. He's a timeless kind of cool fella. Paul Weller. Okay. Do I think it's better to plug into an interface or plug into an amp? So when you gig, you know it will sound the same. That's from Kane. Sorry, I'm trying to think what you mean. Do you think it's better to plug into an interface or plug into an amp so when you gig, you know it will sound the same? I don't understand the question. Trying to imagine. Do you mean like if you record with plugins, it's going to have one sound and then you go to play a gig and it's a different sound because you're then using an amp? I don't know. It's a great question. Yeah, the main thing is this: when you gig, don't let your gig be the first time you try your rig. You know, rehearse with it and play and dial in your effects and your tone with the band, and record if you can, and listen back, and then you'll know if your live sound is where you want it. Hope that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, just get your live sound dialed in a. I'm making me self-conscious about my hair. Get your live sound dialed in ahead of time at rehearsal and you know, sound check and all that stuff, and make sure it's cool. It doesn't have to be exactly the same as whatever happened on a recording. People didn't really used to think about it that way, you know, like recording in the studio. You think about it, okay, something like ZZ Top or whatever. Supposedly they use those brown, like the Ombre Suramp is based on, you know, like a brown Fender little combo or whatever. But live, I mean, probably Marshalls and stuff. A lot of guitar players used to do that. You used to record with one thing, and then live to bring out the big guns and go out and play with, you know, and that was fine. A lot of other people use the same stuff, Brian May or whatever. But Jimmy, you know, famous for recording through Fenders, right? And then it was always Marshall's live, pretty much, except for sometimes. But I think it was more about what was around in the studio at the time, and uh, I really feel like all this stuff is happy accents. You know, like it was what you could get your hands on at the time. When I think about the amps that probably people like, the whole AC30 treble booster thing is like, oh, the amp's too dark, so we got to make this box that we tack onto it to stick in the front. Oh, that sounds cool. And then you end up recording with that because that's what they had in England at the time. You couldn't get a Fender Bassman 410, or you know, or the Beatles using the guitars that they used in the early days and stuff. You couldn't get Strats and stuff very easily. I mean, Hank Marvin got one in the UK, but it was like one of the first Strats to ever get there, I think. When you think about it, when I think about that Hank Marvin things, like Fenders just weren't in England at the time. And that was late into when like Strats had already been out like 6 years when he got his. So it's pretty wild. Like just that gear didn't, you know, so over there it was these different amplifiers and stuff. And it was just these, so people used what was in the studio and what they could get. And then live, it was a different thing. And I kind of love all that. Like such a different time, you know. It kind of goes to what the fellow was saying a little bit earlier about practicing and then realizing the gear isn't that, you know, like I love the idea of getting a sound out of whatever's available to you. I do love that idea. There's a great video I saw on YouTube. You can probably find it. It's Richard Thompson, and it was a Guitar Player magazine thing, and they had him dial in a whole bunch of random amps. And they were just like, can you try and get a sound out of like 10 different amps that are really like kind of like not like really off brands and kind of like pawn shop stuff, and just like if this showed up at a gig, how would you dial it in? And he goes through and does it, and it's a really neat video actually. I mean, I saw it years ago, but it was pretty cool. You can probably find it on YouTube. I like that idea, you know. Scott says, good to have you back and looking forward to more. Scott Clausen up there in the super chat. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate that. I do. Okay, one more question and then I'm going to split. Rory Gallagher had a 410 Bassman, though. Did he? That's from Will. I didn't know that. I always thought it was his AC30 because that's what he could get and used. I don't know. Maybe he did in the 70s. Did he in the 60s? Really? Well, there you go. There you have it. But when did he have a 410 Bassman? How do I balance the volume when using different guitars live? Don't really worry about it. I'm a big volume control on the guitar guy, so I'm like on a Les Paul or something, I'm rolling down a lot, so I'm always balancing using the guitar, I guess, a lot of times. Sometimes it's with different pedals. Like with single coils, I'll tend to generally on a clean channel turn on a compressor a lot, and occasionally like a boost to juice up the front end a bit, and then maybe roll down the volume. This is a balancing act, but generally speaking, on a clean sound, I like single coils, and I'll find that single coils into just a clean channel can tend to sound a little thin, and I pump it up with a compressor and sometimes hit it with a little bit of boost too to just give it a little more life. And then you can kind of play light, you know, and then if you hit hard, it's distorted a little bit. But if you just play light with a light picking attack, maybe roll the volume down on the guitar, it's like this juicier tone that you can get with a little compression, maybe a little boost, where you're right on that edge of, it's just fatter and with a little bit more character and sustain to it. You know, that kind of thing. So, yeah. Do I use scumbag speakers and everything, or do you like greenbacks or V30s? I use Celestians in just about everything these days, which isn't to say I don't like scumbacks. I do, and I have a couple cabinets still with scumbacks. I've got a 412 with scumbacks in storage that I haven't used on tour for a long time, but it's a nice cab with M75s in it that I do have in storage. I always use the M75s, and I like the and I'm a greenback guy. I'm not really a V30 guy, although we used a V30 in the PT15 cabinet because it blends well with a greenback, I find. So V30 in a green is a great sound. V30 by itself, not really my thing. Greenback guy generally. And I like Celestion G12H75 creambacks if I can just use one speaker in a 112 or maybe in a 212. Those sound really quite good to me too, across the board. That's a G12H30 style speaker with higher power handling. What's my most recent studio upgrade? I don't know, nothing really, because I haven't been here for 6 months. Haven't done much to this room since I really built it. It's pretty much the same. Yeah.
Jason Carter says, I told my girlfriend she painted her eyebrows on too high. She looked surprised. Now we've got option paralysis, says Harlow Hits. That's kind of true with the gear. I think you're referencing like so many options and stuff. It can be true. Have you tried the Marshall Studio 21 amps? I've heard them a little bit, but I haven't personally tried them. I think they're a great idea, and I thought it was a brilliant marketing thing, and kind of made the amp everybody wants. A slightly lower power version of a Plexi as well as a JCM 800 was a great idea. So let's not try and reinvent the wheel. Let's give the people what they want. It's brilliant. Was the other guitar player using a PT15 on the Classic Rock Show tour? No, he was using an amp, and I'm going to forget the name of the guy now, but there's a rig rundown on YouTube that we did, and he mentions the name of the dude. I'm not supposed to say rig rundown. That's a Premier guitar trademark, but you know what I mean. We go through our rigs. We run through our rigs. It was a 45 watt 6L6 affair that he was using, mostly with pedals into the front for gain and stuff. Yeah. Do the Wilkinson locking saddles fit the Goto 510? Yes, in my experience, because I just did it this week. They should go on there just fine. I'm trying to like single coils, but I don't like the noise, says Kenny. I'm all good with the noise. I just grew up with it. It doesn't really bother me. If you don't like the noise, get a SIR, because they got their great. It's a true single coil pickup, but with a noiseless system in it, a separate coil that and the guitar is as quiet as with a humbucker, so you can always get a SIR. Okay, I should go, guys. This was fun today. A lot of fun. Thanks for being here. And God, we got almost 400 likes up. It's 389. Give me a thumbs up if you had fun. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys next Sunday. I'll be here. What we got going on this week? Couple overdrive pedal videos probably, and I don't know. Just kind of see what's what around here. See what's next. What else? I've got to get one done for that Crazy Tubes sidekick. One for that pedal that I showed you with the sustain thing on it, and the tremolo from Origin Effects, and these two pedals I have back here. Oh God, I got a lot to do. Okay. All right, everybody, have a great week. Take care. Rock on, rockers.